Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Friday Nightmares podcast. I am one half of your hosting team this evening, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Michigan, Smoke Show Crawford. And with me, as always, is the lovely
Heather Powell coming to you from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. I refuse to call myself Pounding Powell. I will not. I will not adopt to that nickname, though people do use it, and that's fine. I just don't know if it really identifies with me as much as, like, I do like to pound, like I like to bang, absolutely.
and you like pounding drinks too.
Yeah, but I don't pound them.
No, you don't.
Like I'll pound shots and shit, but you don't pound back sangria. You're not like, oh man.
Well, you're just not living your life then.
Spent $11 on this glass of sangria. Let me drink it as quickly as fucking possible.
Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
No, well, maybe that's what you do, but I'm not rich like you, I guess. I like to try to make my drinks last. But man, I drank this weekend, of course, and I just drank at home and with some friends and stuff. And honestly, like, my tolerance has gone down since we went into red zone.
Oh no.
I know. What are we gonna do? Yeah, like it didn't take as much. I had a bottle of Yellowtail red sangria to my face on Friday night. It was delicious.
To your face.
Yeah, and I had fruit and everything. Like I had an orange, I had some raspberries, I had some grapes. Like it was fucking all out, let me tell you.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of it and I was impressed.
Balls to the wall, you know. Go big or go home, Scotty. Go big or go home.
That's the only way to be, especially with you.
Yeah, right. That's how I do it. But yeah, and then last night I just went out with my parents for dinner and then had some drinks and came back and had some more drinks. And it was like, I don't know, like I slept till 10:30 today. I was up till 2 in the morning. I originally told Scott I was going to bed at midnight, but then I didn't.
Yeah, I'll say we ended up chatting till like in the group chat till like, was it 12:30, 1 o'clock?
No, it was like 1 because I watched 1:30 because I was watching South Park. I was watching the episode where Butter's parents try to kill him. They try to cover it up and shit. Yeah, it's funny. I love South Park. That shit's jokes, man.
Oh, I love South Park.
It's so funny. And the night before I was watching some Rick and Morty as well.
Just going for some good old adult humored cartoons. I love it.
Yeah, I like Rick and Morty too. It's really fucking funny.
Oh, it is.
Like it's a good little series. But yeah, like, and then I went shopping for Thursday, which was your Thanksgiving. So belated Thanksgiving, Scott.
Thank you.
And all my American brothers and sisters. And yeah, I hammered out the shopping. First time I've stepped foot in a mall in over a year, and I just like fucking nailed that bitch. I went like store to store to store, got my shit. I've finished all my Christmas shopping with the exception of like a handful of gifts, like stuff like bottles of wine and shit, like things that you just, get closer to the date because you're not going to buy a bottle of wine now and have it sitting around for fucking like 25
why not?
days. Well,
wine gets better with age, Heather.
But to be honest with you, what I'm more concerned about is me hitting it and breaking it. So Scott's just flashing me his crotch, everybody. I just want everyone to know, Scott, your fans only recording or OnlyFans recording is later. Not right now.
Well, okay, fine. This will just be a peep show for you then.
I know what your dick looks like. I've seen it many a times now. I get it, okay? It's a nice penis, all right? It's really nice. It's just perfect size, perfect girth, gets the job done. You should be very proud of it, but I don't need to see it every time we podcast. God, Scott.
Well, Little Smoke Show Junior's got to come out and help talk about the show.
Well, I wouldn't call it little. I think that's an insult to it. It's a fairly good size, healthy, strapping young man. So let's obviously been drinking his milk and taking his vitamins and saying his prayers like good little Hulkamaniacs.
Oh my gosh.
I know, he's so awkward now. He's like, why'd you talk about my dick on the podcast?
That's what happens when I show it to Heather. She just has to tell everybody on the show now.
I get really excited. I love dick, like I love cock. I heart cock. Like I do though. I love it. I love the cock.
I know you do.
I'm not one of these chicks that are like, ew, yucky. I'm like, give me some of that shit. Like, definitely no issues here. Anyway, I've kind of babbled on because sometimes you don't have anything interesting to say, but we'll let you talk now about your things.
Wow.
About your Thanksgiving and I don't know, your cock or shopping or whatever it is you feel like talking about.
No, I'm done. The show's over.
Oh, okay. Brandon Orlick, can you come on the show, please?
But yeah, I had a good Thanksgiving. I mean, it was not your typical, like not my typical Thanksgiving with the big family and all that, because due to everything that's been going on,
and Scotty follows the rules.
Yeah. And it was just ended up being me and my parents, and I see them at least twice a week. So I was like, yeah, going to see them for Thanksgiving's not a big deal. So we just had dinner together and then spent a good couple hours there just hanging out. And then trying to remember, I really didn't do much on Friday, just kind of relaxed around the house and did some things. And I threw my back out. I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the show, but I've been just like slowly recovering from that. So I'm trying to take it as easy as possible while still trying to do some things around the house. But I did decorate a little bit for Christmas just to get a little bit of the Christmas spirit in the house.
Hey, you got something exciting going on every day. Why don't you talk about your calendar?
Oh yeah, I'll say I'm sure everybody that's listening for the most part has noticed, but yep, I got a Gremlins Advent calendar that each I think it was a Halloween Advent calendar because it was 31 days instead of 25. So I started it a little earlier just so on the 31st day it'll land on December 25th. But yep, each door holds like some little miniature figure or something along those lines to represent gremlins. And yeah, so far I think it was Gizmo, and then it ended up being I think it was a little fur ball to represent when he got wet, and then it turned into an egg, and then then it was Stripe the Mogwai, then it was the egg with a little bag of slime, which I'll probably take a picture of everything set up when it's all said and done and make the slime put the slime out and everything. Then it came out with a gremlin, and then Stripe as a gremlin so far. So I'm kind of curious to see which what each little figure is going to be going forward, because it's definitely telling the story of gremlins like in the order that it happens.
That's awesome. It looks really fun. I'm actually really impressed by it.
Yeah, I'll say it's really freaking cool because it's like it's a fold out theater. Like I haven't taken a picture of the full theater. Like I think I sent a picture to you with it all folded out, but I haven't like posted it on Facebook. But I'm waiting until I'm all done and I can have all the figures sit in the theater seats and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I'm just using that to get myself in the Christmas spirit. I decorated my Gremlins shelf, so I got like some garland hanging around it and got a little miniature black Christmas tree right next to the theater.
And then you're gonna watch Black Christmas.
Black Christmas.
The 1974 one, not the other pieces of shit.
I was gonna watch 2019. You kidding me?
Oh, 2019. Just don't. Yeah, it's just yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I'm gonna get myself in the Christmas spirit and watch Christmas horror films. That one's on the list. I'm dreading it, but I'm gonna watch it.
You know what? If you just know that go into it knowing that it's a very it very much identifies with the Me Too movement, which is a very important movement. It's just the message was a little over the top at times, and kind of took away from the seriousness of the movement, in my opinion. And it has nothing to do with the original Black Christmas. I think if you walk into it knowing that and you go, this is just going to be a fun science fiction-y slasher-y film, you'll have a good time with it.
And honestly, like, I don't know how many people expect it to be anything like the original Black Christmas. Well, I guess people that don't watch trailers, but I watch the trailer and goes, wow, this looks nothing like the original. And I would have went in expecting that.
I remember you were dating a chick last year and you were thinking of her and you going to see this.
Oh yeah.
And I gone to see it and I was like, no, Scotty, do not take a woman to see this fucking movie. Like, it and I saw it with someone I'm romantically involved with, and I was like, yeah, that's not something you do.
No.
Like, and like I've known this person a long time, and and we're very close friendships, so we were able to be like, it was, but it was uncomfortable. Like there were parts where I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what the fuck is going on here? So yeah, I think watching it, knowing that it's like a sci-fi-ish, goofy romance, like not goofy romance, goofy like slasher, I think you'll be fine with it. Like, just know it's a lot of Me Too. It's really high on the Me Too movement. To me, to a detrimental point. And I'm very much for the Me Too movement, but I think this film just missed the mark.
Yeah, that's what I had heard, and you did an amazing review of it with a bunch of others on the Fresh Cuts last year.
Oh yeah, back in December last year, when I was a baby podcaster.
Which, by the way, happy 1 year of friendship. Are you tired of me yet?
Do you want an honest answer on the podcast, or do you prefer? No, of course not. Of course, I'm not tired of you, Scott. Clearly, you are very important to me, and you've continued to be. We've shared lots of experiences together. Like, I've seen your dick many a times, and I just love it more and more each time. Everywhere, wherever it is. In my mouth, with a hat on the train.
When we're out at the convention.
We're at the convention and you naked. Just like pull out your dick and you're like, hey Heather, I just wanted to say hi, and I give him a high five. Like I just really appreciate those moments that we have together. But no, I think we're very lucky. It's funny, when we first met, we visited a lot within the first 3 months of knowing each other, which was a little difficult for me because I live, not that far away, but the exchange is very expensive for me to leave Canada and go to the United States, even if you're just driving. And I went to see Scott in December and in January and in February. And I told him in February that I couldn't keep this rate of visiting up, that I would probably be, and also my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer at that time. And I don't think I've ever talked about that on the podcast.
No, I don't think you did.
I don't think I have. But yeah, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in February. And Scott, of course, understood that priorities had to be done. I actually got some news about that when I was visiting him.
Yeah.
In February, about the testing that she had been doing. So anyway, we had already planned that I wasn't going to come out there again until April because of, I think I was going to come for Motor City Nightmares.
Yep.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, but I was going to try, and like if there was time and whatnot, I was going to try making it out in March because I had already paid for my enhanced license and was just waiting for it to get there in the mail.
And it was also depending on my mom and other things too. Spoiler, my mom beat cancer. She had her surgery in April. And she did, they removed the tumor along with a bunch of other stuff. And she's done her radiation. And she's doing really well. So that's,
and I'm happy to hear that.
So it ended good end to 2020. Let's talk about the positive stuff. But I had no idea. I remember having this need. I've always had an idea that I'm like, I should see Scott as much as I can now, because it was tiring. Like, it's a 3.5 hour drive. But I thought I better go now because you never know. And you do never know, because here we are. And Scott and Brandon Orlick and I were joking around last night. And it's true. I don't know when we will be getting together again in person.
Yeah, it's going to be up in the air for quite some time. And it's just crazy. And I was just thinking about this too. And it's crazy because probably by the time this episode is released will be the round of time of the 1 year that you had come to visit me.
And we went to see Gremlins.
Yep, we went to see Gremlins, and that was when
kids spilled the fucking Skittles in the movie theater.
Yep.
I talked about that on our first episode, but that was funny.
You did, and I was gonna say, and that will be also 1 year since you and I came up with the idea for the show.
That's right. Yeah, we decided that we were going to do podcasting. I was getting more and more to podcasting, which reminds me, I'm wearing my Kill the Cast tank top. I had to cover it up because I got cold, not because I didn't want to show off my...
Yeah, she just didn't want to show her boobs to me after I showed her my penis.
Oh, fuck. You've seen them. It's fine. It's fine. Let's not be coy now, Scott. All right? You know what they look like. So anyway, they're not big either. Like they're there, but they're proud. Just like your cock. All our shit's just super proud. All our sexual items are just super proud. Anyway, but where was it going with this super inappropriate conversation? Oh, what were we talking about? We're talking about
our show idea.
Our show. Okay, fuck. Anyway, it has nothing to do with cocks and tits. I don't know why. Oh, Kill the Cast T-shirt. That's what I'm talking about. All right, Kill the Cast tank top.
It's all back around.
4 years ago, or I guess a year ago, they had their 4-year anniversary. 4-year anniversary, I think it was. Yep. And I was on that show, and I am so utterly grateful to Jay and Kenneth and Jerry for giving me my start in podcasting. Words cannot ever express how much those three gentlemen mean to me and how much I appreciate them. And particularly, I want to thank Jay. I know he doesn't listen to this show, but if it wasn't for Jay, quote, making fun of people on this horror movie Facebook group that I follow and me thinking he was fucking hilarious, and that led to me listening to Kill the Cast, I probably would have never met you. And I probably would never be doing what I'm doing today. So thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jay.
And thank you to Jerry and Kenneth and Jay for having me on their show. And kind of, I remember being so afraid. And I'm not like Scott. Scott's been doing this shit for years. So he's had 2 other podcasts before this one. Guested on multiple podcasts before. So he was really the veteran coming into this. And I still feel like he's the veteran. Like I may be the comical relief, but he is the glue that holds everything together. So I'm really, really glad I've been able to work with him. And I think one of the biggest compliments, and I really appreciate Christian said this from Exploding Heads, and Dave C has said it before as well too, that our chemistry is good, that we flow well together, that we have good conversation. We talk about cocks and balls and tits, which, you know what? If there's anything the fucking horror community loves, it's cocks and balls and tits.
It's so true.
We are on the fucking mark. Yeah, and I just consider myself really blessed. And even though 2020's had its ups and downs, Scott has been a phenomenal friend and been there for me through thick and thin. I've been there for Scott with all his dating adventures, because when you're Smoke Show Crawford, all right, there's a lot of ladies out there that want a piece of the Smoky Bear.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, come to your biceps are actually looking pretty good considering you don't work out. Imagine if you fucking actually hit the gym and did some fucking working out, how good you would look. Right. Not that you don't look good now, but you'd be fucking breaking hearts left, right, and center.
Yeah, one of these days when I'm actually feeling like I'm not like a broken old man, I will be definitely getting back to the gym.
You are like an old man.
I am.
I wouldn't say broken though.
Well, my back feels like it. That's about the only part.
My back, lick my pussy. It's like that. Anyway.
Wow, going there.
I always go there, Scott.
That's true. It's true. What am I thinking?
Come on now. Is there anything you wanted to say about our 1-year anniversary, Scott?
Just that, you covered it, but at the same time, I am forever thankful because, like you were saying, with Jay kind of bringing you into the fold and if I didn't hear you on Kill the Cast, I would have never sent you a friend request because I wouldn't have had any idea who you really were. And then just that, I'm so thankful that you decided to randomly message me out of the blue in November. And as soon as you did that, our friendship was almost ignited. And I'm glad that we had continued talking every single day and building our relationship as a friend, and then coming together on this idea for our show. And I could never have done this without you. This is probably the best project I have ever worked on, and the best partner I could have to work on it with.
We are pretty good, aren't we?
It's true. We are. You make this fun. It felt like a job before, and now it just feels like 2 friends hanging out, talking shit, laughing at each other's jokes, laughing at our own jokes, watching movies, and just it like you were saying, with Christian and Dave, I think part of it is with our chemistry is that we have fun, and we, while this is a podcast, we don't take this serious. It's our hobby. It's just for fun.
And I really do respect what Christian and Dave have to say, because I do think Exploding Head is a very good example of people that flow well. I think
Oh
the
yeah,
same thing about Kill the Cast, and I think other podcasts do it well too. It's just, I think that when you have a connection, like obviously Dan and Lacey, but they're a couple, so I feel like that's not, they would make it flow well anyway, and they're like super cute and they call each other baby and shit. Like, I just find
right.
that fucking adorable. Like, I love when people drop like other couples are like baby, or they put selfies of themselves together. I fucking eat that shit up like candy. I'm always like heart emoji, love, like, even though I would vomit if someone tried to do that shit with me. I'm like, that's so nice that other people do that. Like, it's such
I know you totally love it when others do it.
I do. I think it's like the cutest fucking thing ever. But no, those are very kind words, Scott. I very much appreciate it, and I'll continue to like your dick pics.
All right, and then and I also wanted to say, thank you very much for being there for me throughout all this. Like, we've been there for each other throughout all this entire year, but yeah, like, you were my rock that kept me sane through all this shit.
Yeah, I can definitely say the same thing. And we, it's amazing that you can really connect with somebody and even not see them for a long time and still maintain that friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. And I say friendship, but I wish I could just remove that relationship. Like,
Yeah.
I consider us in a relationship. I was gonna be like, oh, I knew it, but I consider myself having multiple relationships, just so we're clear here.
Oh, for sure.
I was doing my Christmas cards this year, and I was buying some gifts for some friends of mine in the States, and everyone but Scott had a card option. I bought for her. Scott's the only one that's not getting a card option, so I'm gonna have to send it in Messenger. But I say to all my friends, love you to the moon and back. And it doesn't matter who that person is. If I've ever been intimate with them or I haven't been intimate with them, I still say love Heather to the moon, like love you to the moon and back, Heather XOXO.
Yeah.
Because if I love you, I love you.
Exactly.
I don't, and sexual attraction and chemistry to me is separate. Yes, there's people that I have sexual attraction to that I also love, and then there's people that I would fucking lay on a track for, but I'm not sexually attracted to them, whether they be male or female. And I am heterosexual. I'm not attracted to women, though. Fuck, if I was, man, like, I don't know, man, I'd be busy. I don't even think I could podcast.
Yeah, I don't even think we'd be able to talk anymore. You'd just be too busy. You'd be putting Smoke Show to shame,
right? Like, I'd be banging everybody. But like, I don't feel the need to keep saying friendship. Like, when I talk about my relationship with you, it's my relationship.
Yes.
I would never feel like, oh, I love you platonically. I'd be like, no, I love you. Like, yeah. I love you. And I think Scott's a good looking man. He's Smoke Show Crawford. Of course he is. He's a fucking hottie. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to Scott. I think he's a good looking dude. But like, you can say those things and not be in the middle of being intimate with someone. There's people that I've been intimate with, broken up with, and I still think they're hot. There's people that I've never banged that I still think are hot. Like, there's chicks who I think are hot. And I think that, like, I don't know. I hate classifying things as friend. Like, if I love you, I love you. Like, that's just
because I was going to say,
is.
A relationship is someone you have built a strong connection with and will do anything for.
Absolutely. And of course, other people may look at that differently, and that's absolutely fine. That's just how I look at things.
I was saying, I'm kind of the same way. Like, friendship, relationship, it's the same thing.
Right. And I think a lot of that has to do with being married, divorce, and my own view on life. And, there's a lot of people who I like, but then there's people who I love. And to me, that line is very clear. So anyway, but yeah, happy anniversary to us of meeting and podcasting together. Our 1 year podcasting vomiting anniversary. We'll have to bring this shit up again. We'll be in January when we record in person. And remember, and we'll tell the story how it took you fucking 45 minutes to be fucking ready to record that fucking goddamn podcast. And I was too polite at the time because I was like, oh my God, he's clearly nervous. Now you don't do any of that shit. You jump on and you're like, balls to the wall, ready to go.
Yeah, it was just that whole getting back into it, nervousness, and never hosting like the show myself before, and just like it was nerve wracking. And yeah, that's me. Like, I don't show nervousness. You can see it through my actions.
Yes, you can see it through your actions. Absolutely, you're very poker faced. Poker face.
Nah.
All right, I guess we should wow, we bullshitted. Wow, do you see that? That was like 25 minutes of just fucking not talking about literally nothing.
Right? Well,
Cocks
before
and
we
balls and our friendship. How like hilarious is that?
well, I think it's great because that just goes to show our like how much fun we have. We can just sit here and chat. And speaking of which, I just wanted to say to everyone that's listened, thank you for being on this journey with us.
Oh, wow, look at that, Scott. Yeah, I thank you too. Not just Scott. I actually thank you more than Scott.
Well, I'm gonna be the one that gets the OnlyFans going. We'll see how much everybody thanks me then.
I don't know, man. You probably would. Fuck. Like you get all these ladies wanting to listen to our podcast. I just get dudes being like, "Hey, you like horror? You like horror movies?
I can hold you during the scary.
Oh yeah, like I could cuddle you and hold you during the scary parts. Oh, you're sweet. You're a sweetie.
Oh, if only you knew.
Oh, baby, you're like 15 years younger than me, sweetheart. I don't think so. And it was a nice gesture.
It was.
It was a very nice gesture, yes. But thank you to our fans all over the world.
Yes.
We can say that. And we really appreciate all of you and your support and keeping Scott and I's egos in check. Well, my ego in check.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know how in check it is because we still got to bring you down every once in a while.
Oh, you can bring me down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's what she said. Oh yeah.
That's what she said, and that's what he did.
You're such a fucking nerd.
All right, you ready to jump into these movies?
She's like, I can't keep doing this. We talked about my cock and my balls, and she's got me a nerd. I talked about my OnlyFans. Oh my god, Heather, we need to move into the fucking movie. All right, so our 2020 films that we've been watching. Welcome to our very serious podcast that is Friday Nightmares. So I watched. Did you see this one?
Yep.
Crawlers. It is Into the Dark Hulu. Now, some of you who listen to our show know that Canada ain't got no Hulu.
Nope.
But I got a friend who has Plex, and he downloaded these bad boys for this little Canadian. And let me say, these Into the Darks are fucking fun.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're not like, oh, the greatest movie of all time or the worst movie of all time. They're just fun watches.
They're just kind of there. I watched an older one, the Halloween one from last year with the board game.
I didn't see that one.
Annie.
Yeah.
Oh, watch it.
Was it good?
Watch it. Yeah, it's fun. It's a really fucking and all of these have the made for TV feel to them.
Yeah.
Fuck, they're funny.
Yeah. Now, I think you have it on here already. No, you don't. But I was gonna say, like, before we jump into this one, what did you think of that Pilgrims one?
Yeah, it was funny too.
That one
was over the top.
I loved it because it was so over the top.
Like even with Crawlers, like I found that one chick, she's looking for her friend the entire time, and her friend's such a bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know why she was looking for her, but anyway, she was. But yeah, I think for like the Hulu Into the Darks, you really gotta walk into these being like, this is made for TV. It's a little like teenage friendly, except for one. I found Delivered was a lot darker.
Yeah.
Really dark, but like the rest of them, like they're fucking teenage feel good fucking truth or dare shit. Like that's what it reminds me of, and it's fine. It was entertaining. I find I've showed them to people that are mediocre horror fans, and they've really enjoyed them. They're only an hour and 20 minutes in length, so I find that they're very palatable. So I think that if you have someone who kind of likes horror but isn't like super hardcore into it, or maybe doesn't like the artsy stuff, Into the Dark, great movies to watch.
Yep, I was gonna say just very easily digestible, fun watches. Like these are ones that I can just throw on while I'm at work and not have to worry.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I guess we can jump into the next one. Or I gotta say too, yeah. But I enjoyed Crawlers as well. I thought that one was really fun, because it reminded me of like teeny bopper version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, and it reminded me of Drinking, which
yeah,
I totally represented with.
Well, I was gonna say this,
and they smoked up. I also do that too, so it was great. I was totally like, man, where's this fucking party at?
I want to go. But I was gonna, because this was one of the because Into the Dark does each one's based on a holiday of one form or another, and this one was the St. Patty's Day one.
Yes, it was.
Yep, I thought it was fun. Nothing like amazing, but it was just like a fun, simple watch. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Just like Scott.
Aw,
Simple watch.
but not amazing.
Oh, amazing in so many ways. Oh, you're
okay.
funny.
I feel better
Get to the next fucking movie.
So the next one is one that you told me I needed to watch, and that was called Bone Breaker.
Bone Breaker.
Which was kind of a low budget one that, what was this, on our good friends Plex? Or no, this one was on Prime.
Prime.
Yeah, and this one was, just a pretty gruesome, interesting story with a very low budget, but like using their budget well. But it's about this people that are out in the woods doing
fitness models.
Fitness models. Doing like their hardcore fitness out in the woods, and then they're getting chased by someone that's pretty much set these woods up to be hunting grounds.
Yeah, she's a crazy individual that engages in some very violent behavior. It's a simplistic plot. It really is. People go out to the woods, and the person that's hosting them is not who they seem. Nothing that we haven't seen before.
Right.
But just how evil the main antagonist is, and her lack of mercy and her lack of compassion is what makes the movie so fucked up at parts, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and I loved her obsession with, like, she was just bored of hunting regular people, so she wanted like some fitness athletic people, someone that would give her a challenge.
Which do they? You'll have to watch it. And it is available on Apple, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Prime, and Hoopla.
Hoopla.
Have you ever watched? Do you ever use Hoopla?
No, I don't have. I have a library card for my town, but I don't know if they actually have Hoopla for my small little town.
Oh, you have a little baby town?
A little baby town.
Baby town. All
like
right.
If I went to the Genesee County Library, I'd probably be able to.
Genesee County.
County.
Way down yonder at the Catacoochee. So our next movie is a documentary. Blood and Flesh, the real life and ghastly deaths of Adamson.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Now, had you heard of this story before?
No, I had no idea who this guy was. I never knew about what happened to him. I did know one of his movies, Psycho a Go-Go, because I had randomly bought that through on a movie sale a long time ago, but I had no idea who he was or anything about it. But yeah, this was a very well done documentary. Like, because I literally just finished it right before we started recording, because I started it earlier this week and then finished the last half of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like how they did this, where they talk about his life, they talk about his films and everything he did with the films, and to talk about leading up to his death.
Yeah.
Which is messed up.
Now, have you ever seen A Stranger in My Home? The series?
No, I have not.
So I had originally heard about the story on A Stranger in My Home. And it's a series, and I think it was out for 3 or 4 seasons. It's a great real life murder series. Now, they do have reenactments in it, and it talks, and this was one of the stories they covered, because the person that murders him, and this isn't a spoiler, if you know anything about this gentleman, it was his handyman that did it. So A Stranger in My Home, if anyone wants to see that hour-long documentary with the reenactments in it, it goes more into the details of the murder. And it's really, really well done.
Yeah, because I want to check that out. I meant to check it out before we recorded, but I just didn't have enough time.
And you can just find it on YouTube, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is available on Amazon, iTunes, Google, Microsoft Store, Prime Video, and Shudder.
Yep, that's where I watched it.
And I would like to congratulate Australia, Tim Davis and Daniel, for receiving Shudder.
About time,
Shudder
guys.
now in Australia. I noticed that we shout them out a lot. They just shout you out to insult your taste in movies, Scott.
Right, and then they mention you in the questions of the week and the movies that you watch.
Yeah, and they still haven't read my review.
Yeah,
on their show. So anyway, though, we're going to take the high road, Scott, and we're going to congratulate them on Shudder. But I recommend this documentary. I think it's very interesting to learn more about kind of the BC movie craze of this cheap, low budget horror movies of the 60s and 70s, and the driving craze. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And he seems like he was a pretty cool dude. Like,
yeah, I was saying like he was very cheap with the way he did things, but like that's what made those movies charming in their own way. It seems like.
Well, it was cheap with paying people. That was
that
his
too.
cheapness, right? Which you can question on the ethics of that, but that's not what we're here to discuss here on Friday Nightmares.
There's no ethics here on Friday Nightmares.
Yeah, well, clearly. It's not everyone a question. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Great documentary. Yeah, if you enjoy documentaries, give it a watch.
Yeah, highly recommend. This is probably one of the better documentaries I've seen this year.
Oh, that's very high praise coming from you, Mr. Crawford.
Oh, it is. It isn't. I've only seen like 5. But
you're like, out of the 5, this one's really fucking good.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so the next one is Delivered, which is another Into the Dark. I've already talked about Into the Dark. The only thing I would say about Delivered is it's one of the more darker ones, but it rips off a lot of crime ones that have actually happened.
Yep. Oh, it absolutely does.
Very well acted, though. You can see the story coming a mile away, but I enjoyed it. And if you wanted to maybe see if someone would like something like Misery or other movies about torture and kidnapping and pregnancy, which isn't Misery, but whatever the case may be, you show them Delivered. It's not a bad film.
No, I'll say it was another one of those a little bit rougher to watch compared to the others because of the topic, but still like a very simple plot, nothing too crazy and out there.
And you can use your big brain to follow it. You should be fine.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to add is that some people have said that Into the Dark are TV episodes. That's fine. If you consider them TV episodes and not movies, I'm not here to debate you on it. Scott and I have counted them as films due to their runtime of usually being about an hour and 20 minutes. But
yep, and plus you can search up the movie title or the movie of each one of these on Letterboxd and rate them. So that's how I look at it too.
Yeah, and I don't really care what people think. So that's how
we do our own thing.
How I rate it. If you want to go watch it and call it a TV series or not, you don't want to watch it, that's fine. Bottom line is, I think if you have someone that introductory horror, may like horror, may not, this might be a good little feeler. Bubblegum, easy fucking films to really get through. Even the heavy ones are not that heavy.
Right, exactly. You want me to take the next one?
I sure do.
All right, so the next one is Cujo from 2020. Oh, I mean Prey.
The puppy was as cute, though. Who's a good puppy? Who's a good puppy?
God. Yes, this movie is pretty much a Spanish version of Cujo, except for the person that is getting hunted down by the dog is quadriplegic.
And Spanish.
In Spanish. And yep, it is like pretty much like beat for beat the exact story of Cujo in so many ways. It's ridiculous, but a lot of plot holes. Like once again, one of those.
Yeah.
Once again, it's one of those where if I watched it on my own, I would probably enjoy it more. But watching it with Heather, she's going, "Wait a minute, what about this? Wait a minute, what about this?" And I'm going, "Oh, yep." Okay.
Well, actually, we had a threesome when we watched this movie.
We sure did. It was all nice and sweaty. Oh, wait. We were wrong threesome.
Wrong threesome, Scott. Brandon Orlick from Exploding Heads watched this movie with us. We watched it all together last Sunday. You're wondering, how did they do that? We did it through Facebook Messenger, and we video chatted each other, and we watched the movie. I gave
him an exploding head.
Oh, you sure did. I was able to rent it through Google Play. How did you guys get it again?
This one was I don't even remember the name of the app, but it was a 7-day free trial for this unheard of app that was on Amazon.
Like when you go to Amazon and they have all those premium channels that you can add on. It was one of those?
Yeah, because I just searched the movie up and it said 7-day free trial or buy it for like $20. And I'm going, I'm not buying it.
No. I bet you're glad you didn't. I paid $4.99 on it. It was fine. But I don't pay for a lot of movies anymore, so it was it was okay. I really like dogs, so if you really like dogs, you might enjoy this film, and you love really good dog actors. The dog actor was really good, and
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but the dog was extremely well trained.
Yeah, the
whoever
dog was
trained this dog
amazing.
was right up there, and the young lady in it was quite good. For her role, I think she did fine, but it was a slow movie. Not a lot happens. I don't recommend seeing it. We only talked about it because the three of us watched it, and there was a dog. Only
Right,
reason why we're bringing
exactly.
it up, to be
And
honest
all
with
three of
you.
us love dogs, so we just
Yeah,
wanted
all
to
three
watch
of
it.
us love dogs, and we had so much fun just chilling watching it, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Probably why the only reason why we're talking about
Right, exactly.
it.
Like it's one I wouldn't recommend, but at the same time, it's like it's not the worst thing I've ever seen either.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend watching it though, unless you really like German Shepherds,
Yes,
like a lot, and you really want to see some puppies. Then
because he's a good boy. He's such a good boy.
right? Exactly. And then I guess the next one is me.
Yep. Well, like you and I both watched it.
Okay, so the next one is Immortal, and holy fuck! Occasionally, a movie comes around and is so real, you kind of wonder if you're watching fantasy and fiction come together in this film, and you're not quite sure where the line is drawn.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's an anthology, and Tony Todd is in one scene, one of the stories. Which the story, I want to just say, if you have anybody that has passed away from cancer, it may be a very challenging watch.
Well, hell, even if you don't, like I was actually crying watching that segment.
It was a very well acted. Actually, I'm going to read a review here from Dustin. Dustin on Letterboxd. Just at the beginning, what his statement says: an odd but very welcome approach to an anthology, especially in these years of slapping shorts together with no rhyme or reason and dumping them on VOD. And I think that is, thank you, Dustin from Letterboxd, 4.4.5 star rating. I think that sums it up the best. This is a very good anthology. The stories are all very true to life with a little bit of science fiction, horror elements tied into it. Well acted.
Yeah, I will say, if you were wanting to see Tony Todd and probably his most emotional performance and probably his best performance, in my opinion, is in this short.
And like some decently well-known people, we have Dylan Baker.
Yep.
People would recognize him from Requiem for a Dream, Selma, Revolutionary Road, Planes, Trains, Automobiles. He was in Trick or Treat as the principal that does all that killing.
Yes, he is.
Sam Levine. Some people might recognize him from Inglourious Bastards, Not Another Teen Movie, Jobs, I Love You, Beth Cooper. So definitely someone that you would know. Agnes Buccaneer. She's been in Murder by Numbers, The Glass House, The Pack, The Woods, lots of other movies, No Vacancy 2. So yeah, definitely there's some people in here that you are going to be like, oh, fuck, I know who that is.
Right.
Oh, fuck, I know who that is. Just a really heavy film. That's all I'm going to say about some of the scenes. It's a movie of that horror that takes that real life approach to it. So.
Yep, and it will affect you one way or another.
Absolutely, and it's a 94-minute runtime. It's available on Google Play, Amazon, and YouTube.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the next one, which is also one that Heather recommended to me, like with high praise, and that was from Amazon Prime as well, I believe, and that was science fiction horror Dark Encounter. And this is pretty much about a family that they come home one day and their daughter is missing, and I think it was like 1 year later, like they start noticing things happening around the woods around their house.
Yes, it's a very, now I will give a disclaimer here. I could see how some people will consider this a drama. with science fiction elements to it, because the horror in it is very subtle. I will definitely, or some people will argue not at all, and that's fine. I recommended it to both Brandon and Scott, so Brandon Orlick from Exploding Heads and Scott, because I know their taste. And I watched this, and I was just doing a random review on Prime, and we'll get more maybe into that later of why I was doing that. And I randomly found this movie, and I watched it. It's a story about a young girl that disappears, and it's a year later, and there is an alien invasion that brings out the truth to what happened to this young lady, and it's not what you think.
Yep.
The acting in it is fucking phenomenal, and I don't think anyone could debate that. And if you do, that's fine. I'll take you up on it, because the acting in this movie is very, very good. It's very, very drama with science fiction. The horror parts of it comes from probably some suspenseful scenes in the science fiction-y piece, but I definitely would have no problem with someone acknowledging this is one of their top 10, 20 films of the year. It's a very good film, but I only would recommend it. Like, Tim Davis, if you're listening, don't watch this movie. You're not going to enjoy it. I know you, and you're not going to like this film.
Right.
Mark Nato, if you're listening, I think you may like this film. So I think that there's just certain people that, you know, are going to like it and you know that are not. I don't think Christian Luciano would like this film. And it doesn't mean it's a bad movie or the people that like it are good. And, like, you know what I mean? It's just certain people are going to enjoy this film and certain people are not.
Yep. I'll say we just all have different tastes. And
right.
Like, even you and I, we have different tastes, but like we do come together on certain films too.
I knew that this film would be liked by you and Brandon. I knew it for a fact. I watched this movie, but I also know the both of you extremely well. And I knew that you would both enjoy this.
Right, exactly. And even if we didn't enjoy it, we would have a lot of respect for it.
I knew you'd enjoy it. I was pretty confident. Like, I just knew when I got to the fucking third act, I'm like, there is no way neither one of them are going to fucking not dig this.
Yeah, like, I was pretty much glued to my screen the whole time watching this film.
Right, and there's a little bit of a Lovecraftian thing going on, maybe a little bit. I don't know if you could.
A bit. Yeah, it's...
like very loosely, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good with Lovecraft. I don't know what the fuck Lovecraft is. I just think of it's weird as Lovecraft, but that's...
I mean, you're not wrong. You're on the right track.
So obviously you can find this on Prime. It's available Prime United States, Prime Canada. It's a free watch. If you enjoy drama and you enjoy science fiction-y stuff, check it out.
Yep, high recommend from both of us, and I believe even Brandon Orlick.
Brandon really loves it. Yeah.
So yes, watch it. And Tim Davis, this one deserves my high score, so you can fuck right off.
Yeah, but don't watch it, Tim. You're not gonna like it. And we don't want to hear you shit all over the movie, Tim. So it's fine.
Right?
You're not gonna like it. Don't watch it.
Or if you're gonna watch it, wait till we can join you on Horror for Dummies, and we can tell you how wrong you are.
How wrong? We're like, we respect everyone's opinions, but Tim's.
You got to bring him down a peg once in a while.
That's funny. Bring him down a peg. I love it. That's awesome.
Love you, Tim. So yeah, the next one. This one's already fading from my memory a lot. So it's Playhouse, which
there's a reason why it's fading from your memory.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was was this one on Prime or was this one of our screeners?
This was a screener. It is available for rent on YouTube and Google if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, this one was... I was excited by the premise because it's about this writer that moves into a castle and he's trying to get, like, pretty much write down the story of the history of this castle and what happened here. And it's very slow. Like, it's really well acted, I thought.
Yes, very well acted. The acting is very good.
But, like, the story just plods along at a very snail's pace. And I just started losing interest here and there. Like, at first I was like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this. And then it just kept losing focus on it.
It was like a ghost story. I felt like, okay, I am going to give a graphic comparison. So if anyone is offended by this, it's like having sex and you think you're going to climax and you don't. That's what this movie reminded me of. It's like one drawn out bang session with no good ending. Like, it's just...
love it. I love it.
It's like, that's totally what this movie was. Like, I was kind of like, it's gonna no. Okay, now. All right, like it feels good, but like, are we gonna get to the point where the good stuff happens? No. Okay. Okay. Now I'm just getting sore and tired and hungry. Like
and
it
this
was
movie leaves you blue balls.
like it was just like, well, not even blue ball. You're just at the end of it. You're like, meh. And I'm glad I watched it because I thought it looked mint. From the trailer, I did watch the trailer because I'm watching trailers now because it's just easier with getting up in higher watches. And I thought, it's a screener, no harm, no foul. Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Nope,
just wasn't for me. And if it wasn't for you, then I don't know who it's going to be for.
Right. Like at first I was like, yeah, I think this is gonna be up my alley because it's got like the castle setting. I love this, and story. Like I love the whole writer going to a haunted place or a place with history and doing a story, and then it just it was fine. It was there. Like it's just not for me. Like
I would recommend watching it unless you really like being cock teased for 87 minutes. I don't watch it. I can't.
Yeah.
No, we're too far now. No, don't watch this movie. It's okay. You're not missing much unless you. Yeah, no.
This is one we just pass on.
No, just pass.
Speaking of cock tease, we'll talk about the next movie.
Now, this movie you should not pass on.
No.
This movie is something that you should check out. Even you, Tim Davis from Horror for Dummies. You may actually even want to go out and find out where this is available. So this movie is called The Special, and it is lower budget. It's a 94-minute runtime, and this movie is fucking body horror at its best, like Videodrome level body horror, only better, in my opinion. Like better practical effects now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, whoa.
Like Videodrome was great for its time with body horror. Like if you remade body horror with Videodrome now in 2000s and used practical effects, you could do so much more.
Yeah.
Right, because we have more advanced in technology. This movie reminded me of, Videodrome in the sense that they used practical effects and they used them so fucking well. There's just one scene where they fucking nail it. And if that's where they put all their money into for that motherfucking practical effect, it was mint. And
yes.
Just so we're clear, I'm not saying that it's better than Videodrome. I'm just using that as a comparison of that movie showed what you could do practically back in the 80s. I think this movie with that scene is showing what is possible to do practically now in 2000s.
Yep. And
right.
This does have a Cronenberg feel to it through
very much,
because it is very sexual.
Very sexual.
Because it is what this movie is really about is this guy having a fight with his girlfriend. Or his wife, and his friend takes him to a place to this brothel where he can get the quote unquote special, and the special is basically just a box with a hole in it, and laughing, he's like, okay, I'll do it. Well, apparently this box is very special because it ends up talking about addiction in a very real way.
Real way. It is the best description I've seen of addiction. Like, I felt like, what was that movie that came out that was very artsy?
Oh, Bliss?
Yes. I felt like this did it better than Bliss. And the acting is fucking raw. Like, it's obvious that these are newer actors. But the main character's fucking decline is so authentic.
It really is.
And it's just a movie that you don't see coming. Do I think it's going to be on top 10? I don't know if it's going to be somebody's top 10. But this is a horror film, and the practical effects that you get in the third act in a particular scene make this movie worth the watch. If you like practical effects and you want to see some good 2020 fucking practical effects and no CGI shit, there's no CGI shit in this movie at all. It's all practical. And it is worth it for that alone.
Yep. 100% agree. Like, this is lower budget done right. And just be warned though, this movie is very weird.
Yes.
Like if you're watching it and someone walks in watching it, or someone walks in while you're watching it, you may feel a little dirty, like someone caught you watching porn. because it's very
Or
weird.
excited.
Yeah, or excited. Like my
Depends who you
my
are.
roommate Tim was he's seen me start it up and he's like, "Well, this sounds strange." I'm like, "Yep, I'm not sure what I'm getting into, but we'll find out." And then he leaves, but he's hearing it because he's just down the hall, and he's just like, "What the fuck are you watching out there?"
It is so like, yeah, I really fucking enjoyed this film,
Yeah.
and I think that as I said, if you're a fan of practical effects, you get to that third act, and you're going to be very, very pleased.
Yep.
And people that I recommended it to so far have enjoyed it. So it is available on Google Movies or Google Play, YouTube, Hoopla, and Microsoft Store, if you're interested.
Yeah, this was a high recommend for me. And speaking of high recommends and body horror,
Man,
all right, let's talk about one of my one that I've been looking forward to for so long, and the delivery was the wait was well worth the delivery, and that is Brandon Cronenberg's sophomore effort, Possessor from 2020. Wow.
yeah. I feel like we built up. We kind of started with some like, man, like our list here is like, they're okay. These last two films, watch them.
Yes.
Right? Like I think these films are worth your viewing time.
Yeah, because you can see that with Brandon Cronenberg, he is definitely taking after his father and his footsteps with the way his filmmaking is done, the kind of stories he tells. Because he also did one called Antiviral a couple years back, and that was a very good, hard look at how far someone would go being obsessed with a celebrity by injecting themselves with a disease that the celebrity has because they're such huge fans.
Wow.
And it's real, it's raw, and it's got body horror in that as well. And so seeing that, then knowing this movie is coming out, I was like, yes, I need to see this. And it's pretty much about a futuristic style assassin that is able to hop into other people's bodies. And unfortunately, at one point, one body she hops into, she is having a hard time getting out of. And it's a very it's a very crazy plot when you it's simple explaining it, but watching it, it's freaking crazy what happens in it.
Now, where we had the special, which was low budget practical effects. So the practical effects that I was praising in that had a lot to do with the fact that you can tell this movie doesn't have a lot of money behind it. So when you see a practical effect, like you would see in that third act, you're like, wow, I didn't think you were going to do that, movie, because that's not what you presented up to this point.
Right.
Possessor, you can tell, had a lot of money. Okay, like they went in with a budget. It was filmed all in Toronto, and it made no disguise about not being in Toronto. It was very, very much Toronto. And it was very clear that there was some good financial backing. Being, Cronenberg, are we surprised? No.
Right.
Very, very high quality body horror and special effects. Probably for high budget, best body horror I've seen this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think if he continues down this road, he's going to definitely have a solid career in directing and creating sci-fi, body horror, sexual movies that are just fucking amazing.
Yeah,
this movie is fucking amazing.
Yeah, like this one, just shot right up into my top 10. Like, it is way up there, and it's gonna keep going up because I think about it more and more, and it's just better in my head. And I do recommend, if you are looking for this, look for Possessor Uncut, because it has a red cover instead of it's like the exact same cover as the other one, but it's red instead of yellow. So if you're looking for it, get the unrated version, because this has got some very vicious, violent scenes in it. And I just gotta say, the thing about the Cronenberg family in general, I love their stories because they do something that is not really expected in the horror genre, and that is adding these different elements of different genres. So this is kind of like a sci-fi spy / assassin movie, but throw it in with horror.
Absolutely. And it's I had something that you were going to say about the sci-fi. they're not afraid to go places.
No.
And I feel like his son is modernizing his dad's view.
Yes, exactly.
I think his movies represent 2020. And I don't care if people like this or not. I know I talked about this movie already today. I love to see him remake Videodrome.
Yeah, I would like if anyone was going to remake any of Cronenberg's films, I would love to see his son be the one to tackle that.
Or is it Scanners?
Yep, yes, Scanners, because I like besides that exploding head scene in that movie, I do not care for that film. I appreciate what it did. It's just not for something I like.
If we were to make Videodrome, you could not use a videotape, obviously. So there would have to be some diversion to it, which is why he probably hasn't done it yet, because it's very hard to modernize that whole concept of Videodrome.
Yeah.
And yet again, I'm not saying that it has to be modernized, but if there was somebody that could do it, it would definitely be him.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree.
I think with his sophomore effort, I think he has a long way to go, but I think he's setting the stage for somebody that could be a real head turner. And be up there when people talk about Ari Aster and Jordan Peele. Like, I think he could be up there in the directors as well. So
no, I think he's already up there now, at least in my eyes.
My eyes too, but I think some people may not be there yet. This movie, though, do not miss this 2020 this year. It's rare that I will say that. Usually I'll say, maybe you'll like this, maybe you won't, or yeah, you should go watch this. Do not miss this movie this year. You will be on the loss if you do not watch this movie. Uncut, fucking amazing. Check it out. You can find it on Amazon, Google Play, Vudu, Fango Now, and Redbox.
Yep, this is one that was one that I really looked forward to all year, and I was just happy with like the outcome. Like this is just made me smile. Like the whole.
I had nightmares about it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It says something, right?
Yeah, I'll say that says a lot.
Right.
But yeah, this is definitely the Friday Nightmares Gold Star approval rating for this movie.
Absolutely. I think there's just some movies that you need to watch in 2020. And this is one of them. Like you will regret not watching this movie. It's that fucking good. And check it out.
Because I see this being on many people's top 10.
And it should be.
Yeah.
Like it should be. It's a fucking good film. It should be. It's like there's some movies that come out every year and you're just like, yeah, this is a good film. Yep. Even if you didn't love it, even if for some reason you didn't connect with it, that's fine. It's a good fucking movie. So, I can understand why people praise it. I personally don't care people top 10 anyway. You could like fucking Shark Attack 18 for all I care as your top number one movie of the year. It doesn't really matter to me. Right. I got bigger things in my life to worry about. But, I think if we look at a filmmaking perspective and what it's doing for the genre, absolutely this movie should be viewed. But we've blown it enough. We'll move on to our older films.
Yeah, my throat's getting a little dry from the blowing.
All this blowing. I'm going to throw one more in here so just three that I'm going to talk about. First one is Feardotcom.
Oh, yeah.
2002. Oh, man. Have you seen Feardotcom?
Nope. This is one I'm going to watch at some point.
Oh, my God. It's so fucking 2000s. Like, it's like, internet is bad. Bad things are going to happen on the internet. You go on the internet, you're going to be bad. Like, it was basically the synopsis of this movie. So, basically, there's this website that you go to, and, if you watch the videos on it where it's actual snuff videos, basically this guy's kidnapping people and killing them, then you run the risk of being like stuff happens to you, right? It's kind of like a little bit of Japanese folklore mixed with internet is bad, mixed with whatever. I think when it came out in 2002, it probably had more of an impact. With
I believe so.
Now you can see so much shit on the internet that like you're like, no, yeah, whatever. Like some films every day. But it was fine. I watched it on Tubi. And I always enjoy these like early internet warning movies that are like the internet's evil. Like I just always find those really fucking funny. So if you are like me and you like hearing about how the internet is evil in 2000s, check out this movie. You can find it on Tubi, which is free, as well as Amazon Prime, Vudu, and I don't know, Fango Now, but just watch it on Tubi. Tubi's free.
Yeah.
I don't know why you
support Support the hell out of Tubi.
Yeah, like Tubi's there. Next one is Stir of Echoes from 1999.
Oh, yes.
Exploding Heads covered this one this year, and that's where the famous "You Can't Say That" came from.
Oh, that's right.
Right. I liked it. It was good. It was a good little ghost story. I didn't fully remember what had happened when I listened to it, so it was kind of still a surprise for me. I enjoyed it. It was easy to sit through. You know, people get their comeuppance who you want them to get their comeuppance. Kevin Bacon's great in it. You know, it's one of his better movies, and you can find it on Amazon Prime, Crave, Hoopla, and Tubi as well. And finally, I watched The Eye. Yay!
Is this the remake or the original?
The American bastardized remake.
Bastard.
I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad. So Jessica Alba.
Oh, that's right. She started this.
Right? Is in this movie, and she's such a shitty actress.
Oh, she is.
Like, I get that she was really pretty. You know, I'm sure she still is really pretty. Good looking lady. I get why she was in movies, but oh dear God, she was so bad. But the story's, you know, basically this woman is blind and she's given an eye transplant. Parker Posey's in it.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, she plays her sister.
I love Parker Posey.
Yeah. But yeah, it's you know what, it's fine. Basically she gets these eyes and she sees through the donors and she can predict death, so it's a little bit Final Destination-y, a little bit ghost story, and yeah, it's on Tubi. If you like ghost stories and you like seeing Japanese or American remakes of Japanese films, you can check it out. So as I said, Tubi, Prime Video, Google Play, Amazon, and here in Canada we have it on Cineplex.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't rent it. I would just go to Tubi and watch it and sit through the commercials. It's worth just hanging out on there to watch it go through.
Nice. Yeah, I've never actually seen the remake, never seen the original. Like, we'll have to go through the originals at one point and then kind of compare them with the remakes at some point as well. It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
But you know, as always with me, I stay with a theme when we go to these movies.
Yeah, you go balls in.
I do.
Balls deep.
Balls deep, no condom on.
No condom on.
Raw dogging this shit.
Raw dogging.
But we didn't bring up our topic this episode, but like if you've been following along, this is our final part to our found footage coverage, and we are doing mockumentaries. So I decided to find some older mockumentary. Here goes Heather with these weird. Good Lord. Oh,
Scott, I wish you'd be more professional and just go with the show, okay?
You are such a shithead.
I am a shithead, but I'm your shithead.
You are, and I love you for it. But yeah, as I was talking, she just kind of appeared on screen with these big old goofy eyes just staring at me. She's trying to basically distract me, and she did a wonderful job.
I tried.
But yeah, I decided to look for some older mockumentaries that were from the found footage genre, and I ended up coming across 3 that I had not seen. One is Willow Creek from 2013, which was directed and I think written by Bobcat Goldthwait, which really was surprising to me. But it is a found footage where this couple ends up going out into the woods to find the legend of Bigfoot. You know, it's typical Bigfoot style story. And it ends up taking a lot of like ideas from the Blair Witch, where it's interviewing townsfolk about the stories of what they've heard and this and that, and trying to like pinpoint the location of where Bigfoot may or may not have been spotted. Then they end up going there and camping out. Leading up to it, very well done movie. But that third act was so annoying because it ended up just being the 2 people in pitch darkness in their tent freaking out to grunting and growling outside and thrashing about, and you're literally just watching them going, oh my God, it's getting closer, what was that, oh my God. And that was it. Really no payoff at all. Like it just left me wanting more, basically. But like for it was a decent movie. Like, it wasn't anything I would just say, oh, you need to go watch this. I know there's a lot of people that love it, but for me, it just didn't work. However, one that did work, and Darren Wilson, I know you listen. If you have not covered this on your show, the Psychosemantic Podcast, I highly recommend this one. And that is The Conspiracy from 2012. And this is basically about these two guys that are doing a documentary about conspiracy theorists, and they end up interviewing someone that has this like big old history with conspiracies and like doing a lot of research. Like, he's literally the full-blown conspiracy theorist nut, where he's got like wall full of like all these articles and things, and he's got like little needles or like little thumbtacks attached to each thing with strings leading to one event, leading to another event, leading to another event. Like, it's the total full-blown cuckoo nut conspiracy theorist. Well, something ends up happening to him in the middle of them doing their documentary. Like, they leave and they come back and he's just missing. So they try doing some investigating and can't figure out whatever happened to him. So they end up taking all of his information that he had on this cult that he kept talking about. And so they took this information and they start finding out that there's a lot of people in higher power that are involved with this cult. So they start digging deeper and deeper and deeper and infiltrate the cult and find ways into it. And when they do, bad things happen. But the way this plays out exactly like a documentary, except for where something shitty really happens to these people at the end. But I really recommend this one. This one was very intriguing from beginning to end. Like, very well done film. And then the last one that I ended up watching was Found Footage 3D on Shudder. And this was another one that was just unsure of, just because the name Found Footage 3D just sounded kind of lame. Well, what
I like your honesty.
Was that?
I like your honesty.
Oh, well, I mean, you gotta admit, that's a very bland title.
It is a pretty bland title.
But it makes sense watching the movie, because they are literally documenting, they're doing a documentary of a behind the scenes of a making of a found footage movie, which is the first found footage movie to be put into 3D. Hence the name Found Footage 3D. And like, while they're doing the stuff, they're like, oh, we're gonna go find this empty location and pretend that there was a story attached to this house, and that'll cause the whole thing to unfold. And they make fun of all the tropes of found footage, and like, they'll even talk about, all right, we need a reason why the protagonist is actually going to be filming every single thing. What is the reasoning? What is the reasoning? And you hear the director going, oh, no one gives a shit about that. The audience is too dumb. They don't care. But then, yeah, it's kind of funny because it's just making fun of all that shit and showing you how easy it is for filmmakers to do a found footage movie. But then at the same time, real supernatural shit starts happening to the crew while they're filming and all that stuff. And really good, pretty freaking violent, like probably one of the more violent films I'd seen in a while from a found footage genre.
Sorry, the cat. One of Scott's cats just walked by him and stuck his tail right up in his fucking face.
I'm so used to it.
I thought it almost went up his nose. He still kept talking. Oh my god. If there's found footage of you, it'd just be you and fucking cats. Like, cats walking behind you, cats climbing on your shoulder, cats sticking their tails up your nose, cats everywhere.
Well, like I said, or like I did, I shared that meme on our page about Vincent Price holding like 4 or 5 cats, and I'm like, this is what Heather sees when we're on Zoom.
It's not an exaggeration, people. It is the fucking truth of what I see with him and these fucking cats. Oh my god. I like cats, but holy shit. Anyway.
Oh, and you can tell I'm so used to it because I didn't even bat an eye when he.
No, and like there was like I almost thought it was gonna go up your nose into your fucking mouth, and you're just like no. It's so ridiculous. Who rules the world? Cats. Who runs Scott's world? Cats.
The pussy controls me.
It still keeps coming back for more. Which one is that? Is it Biff?
Yeah, it's Biff.
Oh my god! And you keep picking him up and moving him, and he's like, "Oh no, you fucking didn't. I run this fucking bitch, Scott."
See, now I'm just holding him and he just doesn't care.
Yeah, he does care. He looks at me like, look, lady, you think I don't know? I will remember this betrayal.
Like you had to bring it up, and now he's paying attention to me.
Oh my god, now you're holding him and you look like you're about to sacrifice him.
Only all Zibu.
All right, put the pussy down. Put the pussy down.
I gotta pet the pussy.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to say about the found footage 3D?
No, that it's on Shudder and highly recommend it.
Okay. Good.
We are just all over the place tonight.
Professional podcasters, Scott and I are. That's right. When you
Yes.
think of professional podcast, you for sure think of us. Absolutely.
Yes, you do.
Right up there. So we're going to break it into what we've been listening to. And my podcast is better than Scott's podcast. I feel like he chose his podcast because I was going to talk about his podcast next, and he just wanted to show up my podcast. Like,
well, I figured it was a compliment to each other because these two they have a history together.
I feel like we brought sticker books to school, and you brought in, like, I told you I was going to go buy some new Scratch and Sniff stickers, and you went and bought the same Scratch and Sniff stickers. That's what I feel like is going on right now. So anyway, the podcast.
I was copying your homework.
You totally did, but you changed it just a little bit. But either way, they're both better podcasts than ours. So
right.
If you want to actually listen to a professional podcast, I recommend Psychosemantic Podcast with Darren Wilson. Wilson?
Yep.
And I believe his wife is on with him sometimes. Vanessa?
I believe so, yeah.
Right? And he has other rotating guests. One of my favorite episodes I've listened to is the one that he was with Bo. And I talked about this one already, but they cover the hunt and they also covered the election, and both and him talked about their opinions on American society. And I was getting like all fucking fired up listening to it. I was like, yeah. Like I was like walking and like, yeah, you speak the truth, right?
Well, you got so fired up, you brought it onto our show and like talked about politics.
Well, and that was only when I listened to half of it. I hadn't even listened to the entire.
Oh, okay.
Right. And this podcast is for people who want to be challenged with their ideals and their beliefs. Darren is an extremely intelligent individual, and he is so well spoken and so knowledgeable about politics, life happenings, movies in general, and he has an incredible ability to connect political events, social events back to movies.
Yes, he does.
And him, Vanessa, Bo, and other guests that he's had on, and I've been listening to some episodes. I haven't listened to all of them yet. Just have this ability to dissect information. So if you want to be challenged and you want a podcast where you'll actually learn things, not about how I think a cat's tail is going up Scott's nose and how I like to drink and party. Like if you actually want to like learn information about society and movies and how things come together, you need to listen to this podcast. It is available on the Legion Podcast Network, and I believe they're also on iTunes.
Yep.
And one of the best informative podcasts out there. Darren has always said kind things about us, and I feel like I am just learning to be like him. I'm looking at going on the show with him and Bo, and I even told Scott that. He's just finding that out now.
Yeah.
And look at his face. That's right, Scott. Now you got to go on your podcast so we can be like feuding. But I'm really looking forward to having a political debate with the three of them. Now, mind you, we all kind of see things the same, so it'll just be us telling everyone else they're wrong. But I'm down with that too. Very, very good podcast. Please check it out. It covers a variety of movies, not just horror, everything all over cinema, and it's worth a listen.
Yeah, I will back you up on this 100% because, yeah, I love Darren and his show. He knows so freaking much. And it's actually kind of funny because I was keeping it quiet too, but him and I have been talking, and I just got to pick out a movie, but we are planning on having me on as a guest as well at some point.
He's only doing that because he asked me first.
Probably it. Yeah, he probably feels bad for me.
No, I'm kidding. I can't believe you didn't tell me you were going on Darren's show.
Nope, I was keeping it quiet. Can't believe you didn't tell me.
Yeah, but you get jealous every time you find out that I'm going on another show. And then you're like, you don't like me. Now I can't go.
Oh.
You're You're still jealous that I got to go on Exploding Heads for the ladies of February.
I know. I mean, look at these boobs. I could have been a lady. What the hell?
Well, you could identify as a lady. That is
Right?
something that could be the case, right? But you
Bullshit.
don't. So
Bullshit.
you definitely identify as a smoke show.
It's his
Anyway.
own. It's his own gender smoke show.
Yeah, you could actually. Yeah, actually, that would. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That
Right?
is absolutely okay.
But I do want to say one thing. I'll give a shout out to our boss and a shout out to Psychosemantic Podcast. Check out the Hail Satan episode because Darren ends up having Jerry Herring on to talk about Satanism, and they talk about the documentary and then the politics with Satanism and everything, and it's amazing, amazing episode. Like, because you know Jerry, he's got a lot of knowledge on Satanism, and they said, and like, yeah, very good, highly recommend it.
Well, he also has a lot to say.
Yeah, he does. But I will jump into the podcast that I'm going to talk about, and the reason we're joking back and forth about like copying her homework is because this is another big show on the Legion Podcast Network. I have been listening to them since very first episode, and that is Cinema Psyops. And why I say there's a connection between Psychosemantic Podcast and Cinema Psyops is because Darren is also known for turning Court and Matt into different photoshopped images based on their episodes. And like I know Court's been on Psychosemantic Podcast, and I believe Darren's also been on Cinema Psyops before. But Cinema Psyops is just Court Psyop and Matt Psyop. They will cover one movie, and they go literally scene by scene, playing clips from the movie and just talking about it and making jokes and like being knowledgeable, but also making fun of the movie at the same time. And then they'll also do Psyop news at the end, which is usually news from around the world of really ridiculous, stupid things that happen, like guy getting a dildo shoved up his ass and having to have it surgically removed.
Oh my god!
Like, and they'll just and they'll steal clips, or they'll take clips because they'll have guests on every so often too. And if there's something just completely taken out of context, Court will snip it out and then use it as a soundbite later on.
That's really funny.
So now Dave Z is on there, and if they talk about like horse fucking or something like that, you'll hear Dave Z just pop on and go, "It's a thing." And but yeah, they're really funny. They're great. They're knowledgeable. Right now, I believe like they're on their 275th episode was released, which I think 276 will be released by the time this comes out. But they've not missed a single week since they started, and they are doing Franchise Fest right now, which they are covering the Sleepaway Camp trilogy. Court says trilogy because he says, forget watching Sleepaway Camp 4. I am not paying $80 to watch this horrible movie. So they're just covering all three episodes or all three movies in this episode, and they're doing a fantastic job. And yep, highly recommend them. They are on the Legion Podcast. They can be found on iTunes. They can find on all the different podcast catchers out there.
Awesome. Well, yes, definitely check out these two much more professional together podcasts than ours, and have been around a long time. Both of these podcasts have been going for quite some time, and I think they just, as much as I joke around, I really have a lot of respect and admiration for both Courts and Darren. And now Court's brother's Matt, right?
They're not brothers. They're best friends, and
I thought they were brothers.
Nope, they're friends. Like they met at I think they were met at a job somewhere and became really close friends. And Court was just like, "Hey, you like horror films?" And Matt's like, "Yeah, I like horror films. I've only seen like certain ones." And Court's going, "All right, time to make you watch a bunch of stuff and really screw your brain up."
Well, I guess that tells you how close I think they are, because I thought they were related. So
they bounce off each other so freaking much, and it's hilarious.
They're just very, very smooth. So yeah, please check them out. They're awesome.
Yeah, high recommend from both of us.
Alrighty, so we're going to take a brief break and hear from one of our podcasting friends. So after these messages, we'll be right back.
Hello?
Hello.
Who are you trying to reach?
I don't know.
I think you've got the wrong number.
Do I?
I'm gonna hang up.
Wait, don't hang up. What's that noise?
Popcorn?
You're making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
I only eat popcorn when I listen to podcasts.
I'm about to listen to a podcast.
Oh, really? Which one?
Probably the podcast on Haunted Hill.
Is that the one with the two guys with the beards?
Yeah, Dan and Gav.
Dan and Gav. Yeah, that podcast was scary. I liked it.
Most episodes, they look at 2 different horror movies. Each episode, they look at a world of the strange, where they look at weird things from around the world. Sometimes they even do special episodes where they look at different genres or directors' discographies and talk about them.
Do you have a boyfriend?
Maybe.
So where can I find the podcast on Haunted Hill?
Or you could go to legionpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, or just go into iTunes and search for the podcast on Haunted Hill. So, are you going to ask me out?
Welcome back to our main topic of our podcast. Can't get this out tonight. We're going to be doing our 3rd installment of the found footage genre, I guess you could say. We're going to be talking about mockumentaries.
Mockumentary, my dear Watson.
Mockumentary, which I didn't even know was a subgenre until we kind of started looking into this found footage thing a little bit more.
Yeah, like I didn't know like how many movies were considered mockumentaries. Like the only ones I thought of was like Lake Mungo and What We Do in the Shadows. And I was like, yeah, those are mockumentaries. And I didn't realize like how many there actually are.
Yeah, and how like they're in every part of cinema, not just horror, but we decided to capture obviously in horror. So there's a little article I found, Everything You Need to Know About Mockumentaries in 5 Minutes, by Eric Lures. It was written on May 4th, 2018. And reality, may the 4th be with you for all our Star Wars fans. Reality can take on many forms, but this isn't one of them. Which I think is a fun little thing that he kind of like put after everything you need to know about mockumentaries in 5 minutes in that quote. Reality can take on many forms, but this isn't one of them. I think that's a really cool statement, actually, to be honest with you. So I'm going to read some of his article here. So how could actual found footage and missing people being terrorized by something sinister off screen, be allowed to be played in theaters and bring in hundreds of millions of dollars easily? The found footage wasn't real, of course, and the mockumentary form acquires a new label, found footage, typically applied to horror films to take on a non-fiction style of shooting to tell their story. All truths are not created equal. In the case of difficult to categorize films identified such as mockumentaries, all truths are false, which is so true, like Mungo, which we'll get into talking about.
Yep.
Encompassing a style long associated with the work of nonfiction, handheld camera work, jarring abrupt edits, fly on the wall scenarios, and the breaking of the 4th wall. Remember when I called it the 3rd wall?
Yep.
I still think we should use 3rd wall.
What was that, like episode 2 or something like that?
Yeah, and you're like, I think it's the 4th wall. Now you'd be like, Heather's fucking 4th wall.
We were so polite to each other back then.
No, now we're all like, go fuck yourself. Mockumentaries are often hilarious due to the execution of the form. And how could something this absurd be real? I think that's a really good statement, actually, and describes a lot of mockumentaries, as we're going to get into.
Yeah.
Mockumentaries take many forms, and genre has persisted due to creative possibilities and lack of rules it offers its makers. The BBC report on spaghetti noodles being grown from trees was presented as Real Nudes podcast. Sacha Baron Cohen's Borat took a man-on-the-street approach to forms by interacting with confused and unaware non-actors. What We Do in the Shadows uses the genre to bring comedic element to the mundanity of vampires' daily lives, which we'll be talking about in this episode as well.
I can't wait.
I believe that's one of your favorite films, isn't it?
Yep, one of my all-time favorite horror comedies.
That's awesome. Although frequently associated with the films of Christopher Guest, Waiting for the Guff, Best in the Show, and the hit sitcom The Office, which is a mockumentary,
Yep.
the genre doesn't require its narrative to be comedic. It was at the 99 Sundance Festival across multiplexes nationwide the following summer where the indie horror The Blair Witch Project, Scott's nemesis, shocked audiences for serving as a legitimate documentary of three friends who disappeared in the woods of, is it Burkesville? Burkittsville, Maryland. The film was seen as evidence providing clues to their whereabouts and tragic fate. Mockumentaries will persist into the future, and hopefully they will continue to confront facts with fury. What a fun little article, man. I really like how it sets the stage for mockumentaries because they are fun. And some of them are done so well that you think they could be an actual documentary.
Yeah, there are some that I watched like that I had like one that I almost wanted to bring up, but like it was just gonna be a heavy subject would have been the Poughkeepsie tapes. I almost wanted to bring that one in as one of our main topics because that was one that I was telling you about where I literally thought it was real.
You had a hard time with that one. I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, like that one just felt almost too real, like the way it all was portrayed.
Yeah, we'll have to look at a way to bring, yet again, you and I make topics like they're going out of style 95% of the time. I'm sure we can find a way to, talk about shit if we need to. But let's jump into this first one here. Lots of mixed opinions on this one, I believe.
Oh, yeah. And you want me to jump in and take over for the movies?
Oh, I sure fucking do.
Oh,
I can't be the one doing all the heavy work here, Scott.
Oh, come on, Heather.
Like,
jeez.
You give and take in this relationship.
I just want to take.
You so don't, actually. That is totally not you at all, actually.
I can pretend.
You can pretend, absolutely.
All right. So, yes, like Heather was alluding to, this one is very divided. Well, I'd say almost a lot of people do not like this one. But this is Diary of the Dead from 2007, which is an American found footage horror film written and directed by George Romero. Although independently produced, it was distributed theatrically by Dimension Films and was released in cinemas on February 15th, 2008, and on DVD by the Weinstein Company in Genius Entertainment on May 20, 2008. Diary of the Dead is the fifth installment in the Romero's Night of the Living Dead series of zombie films. It is not a direct sequel to previous films in the series, but occurs within the same universe of the original four-part series, according to Romero. So the synopsis is, the dead are returning to life to feast on the flesh of the living. As civilization dissolves in this nightmarish scenario, a group of college students travel across Pennsylvania in hopes of finding refuge at their friend's secluded mansion. Film student Jason tapes their journey, and the movie is presented as his footage. So this is one of those films that I bought it immediately when it came out on DVD.
Oh, did you?
Yep, because I was like, oh, I love the Dead series. It was like right after Land of the Dead, and I had fun with that film. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of curious to what George Romero will do with like the found footage mockumentary style. And this one has some serious issues. Like,
do tell, Scott. Do tell.
Well, one thing that I've always complained about in found footage is the excuse for why they are still filming. And the reason this guy, and this is brought up over and over.
And it's so pretentious.
Oh, it is.
Oh my God, is it ever pretentious?
Like, the part that annoys me the most is his damn girlfriend. She narrates the whole thing because she's the one that ends up putting it all together, like, because of what happens to him. But, like, she says constantly, if it's not on camera, then it isn't really happening, right? She says it so many times throughout the film, and his excuse is always just like, I need to film this to show the world, I need to film this. Who the fuck are you going to show? Internet's down. Everything else is down. Who's going to see this besides your friends making a home video?
But then there is internet when they go to the army. So, okay, they're filming a horror movie. Shit starts to happen. They start getting the news coverage shit. They see it on their phones or whatever it is. Some people they get creeped out. They get into a camper. They're driving. They run into those cop zombies at first. Right, they're on the road in the camper.
Yep.
And they run into like a whole bunch of zombies. They have a whole bunch of shit happen to them, and then they find those military dudes. My favorite, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but is the Amish gentleman.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
He was really sweet, and he was the only character I honestly felt bad for when he died.
Yeah, like,
and he was in it for 50 seconds.
Yeah, I'll say, like, and I just loved how he took care of like the zombies too. Like when he shows up and they're just like, oh, and he's pointing behind them and he just lights a stick of dynamite and just throws it at the zombies.
Right?
Like,
I forgot that they took the person that's bitten. Who gets bitten?
Oh no, talking about the hospital. It was If she wasn't bitten, what happened was it was the girl that was driving the RV that runs over a bunch of the zombies when it first happens.
Right.
She's traumatized, thinking
and
like
she shoots herself. Right.
Yeah, she shoots herself in the head, thinking that she was just killing people.
Yes.
And
then, right.
Oh, and I was saying
go
the
ahead.
Romero zombie films, you don't have to be bitten to turn. You can just die and return.
Yes. So they take her to the hospital. The hospital's all abandoned. They run into it. Kind of felt like a video game. Did you not feel like it was a video game when like the fucking nurse and the fucking doctor like?
Oh, it absolutely did. Which I'm gonna jump in and say this right now. Someone asked George Romero on his thoughts of the Dawn of the Dead remake, which came out in 2002, and he said it felt too much like a video game to me. And then he makes this movie.
And I don't think he realized, because he probably figured those zombies were so quick.
Yes.
Right? That's why. And I think I don't hate this film. I'm going to make something very clear. I don't think it's a great documentary film. I think it hilarious that it's considered that when we looked it up online.
Yeah.
It's considered a mockumentary. It's because obviously the main character, is it Jason?
Yep.
Jason decides that he wants to keep filming even when they go to the gentleman that is Amish who dies, which is really sad. The fucking southern chick that fixes the car is a mechanic and like an all around like badass chick.
And like what you say, don't mess with Texas.
Yeah, she's she is endearing though. I gotta say, she is a little bit endearing. Yeah. I get when they run into the first set of army guys and the real ones that are part of the National Guard and stuff, and there's internet there. So somehow they refine internet there. And his argument to her is, he says to her when she's like, why do you keep filming everything? He said, because we can educate other people to how to kill them. Like we can share this knowledge with that. I kind of bought into. I could buy into that now internet's all of a sudden working again, or is working here. Like that's the shitty writing, right?
Yeah.
Is somehow cell towers are down, but somehow internet's continuing at this bunker. And they can let people know how to kill the dead that are coming back. I can kind of swallow that. I can kind of go, okay, that's a noble enough cause that you want to share this information with other people. But clearly he was this aspire horror movie director who you kind of get this idea that he's in it till at the end because he wants to die a martyr, but you're also wondering if he just wants to die for the fame, even though there isn't any fame because fucking life as we know it is destroyed. But yeah, it's a real fucking doozy of a convoluted documentary.
Yeah, and the character of Jason is just so unlikable. Like you were saying, the cause makes sense, but he is such a unlikable character, like showing no emotion when they go to his girlfriend's parents' house, and she's like, all right, just drop me off and I'll stay here and wait for my parents.
He was gonna leave her.
Yeah, and he was gonna leave her, and their friend was just like, dude, what the fuck? Okay, I'm gonna go with her then. And like every time like a zombie or something attacked, he just goes, hey, look out. Wouldn't actually try stopping the zombie or putting the camera down. He just has to film it and just go, oh, watch out behind you. It's like, come on. Like, I don't find that believable at all.
And it was purposely written that this guy's sole purpose was to record no matter what. That he is a director to the end, he is a filmmaker to the end, and whatever he needs to do to get the actual product. So you're right. Like, she has to basically fight off her parents on her own accord and her little brother. And then they leave there and they're robbed. And then they make it to their buddy's house who's like fucking loaded.
Yep.
And
he's acting all strange.
And you go to the pool and you see everyone in the pool. Like, she refers to it as like a gold, like, what did she call it? A pond or something like that?
Yeah.
Like all the zombies, and you're still not quite sure how they're sunken at the bottom, how he managed to make that happen. Like, I think now we're talking about more plot issues. I think if we look at the mockumentary, it's the idea that this guy is filming no matter what, and he's trying to capture people's real life experiences. So when he's interviewing them on the bus and he's asking where they're going and what they're getting them to share their stories, he's trying to convey that real emotion. When the girl from Texas is getting attacked by the zombie and he's not doing anything, he's just filming it, and then her shirt gets ripped open,
and like there was that joke from earlier, like, you just want to see my boobs or whatever.
Yes.
Then it happens.
You know, I can kind of appreciate that what the aim of the film was to say, no matter what, this person's going to keep recording. He believes it's in the betterment of society, or it's holding on that you think there's a society left. You know, we could argue that Jason was in denial, thinking that, you know, this video was somehow going to have an impact and somehow going to make a difference. Now, we've seen this done with another movie. It was a 2020 film. I can't remember. I think it was called Assimilate, where at the end, they're able to connect with other survivors across the world and talk about how they've made it and share information. So it has been done before, but I think, or it has been done better now, I should say, later on. I think the concept was there. It was just the execution was just not well done.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I just, like, for a mockumentary style, like, for the ones that we have in this topic, this is definitely the weakest of all of them.
And it's such a rinky-dink mockumentary, right? Like, for it to even be considered that, it's because the guy keeps just saying that he's making basically a documentary.
Right.
He's like, it's a documentary, so people are like, I guess it's a mockumentary, because he keeps saying that he's doing that as he's recording.
Exactly.
Right.
And like, I do like the social commentary behind this, where it is basically like, you know, you can't trust the news sources because of what they cut out and what they will show you. So this is why he was doing it, just to show everybody what was really happening, which, once again, it was also doctored because you see him editing it in the
right. And you could argue the Bay does this too, which we're going to get to in a little bit, but does it better.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Like, I think that this was just, you know, they called it a mockumentary and we watched it because I was like, oh, like, it's a mockumentary. I've never seen this. And you're like, yeah, we can try it. I'm watching a while. And yeah, it's a very loosey-goosey mockumentary.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting title to give this. And I think, you know, bigger and better mockumentaries have been made, which we'll get into for our next film.
Yep, absolutely, which we'll jump into right now, which is Lake Mungo, a 2008 Australian psychological horror film written and directed by Joel Anderson and starring Talia Zuckard and Martin Sharp. It employs mockumentary-style storytelling with found footage and docufiction elements, using actors in place of interviewees to present the narrative of a family trying to come to terms with the drowning death of their daughter and the potentially supernatural events they experience after her death. The synopsis goes as Alice drowns while swimming, and her family begins experiencing inexplicable events in their home. The family hires a parapsychologist whose investigation unveils Alice's secret double life and leads them all to Lake Mungo. Now, we brought up this one in our What We Watched segment a couple of episodes ago, and we're just blown away because this one, if I remember correctly, unsettled you, didn't it?
Oh, it did. I really fucking love this movie. I think this is the mockumentary golden child.
Yes.
Like, to me, I have yet to see a mockumentary that honestly comes close to touching how well this was done.
Yep. This one I would compare with Poughkeepsie Tapes, the way it is done.
Really? Okay.
Yes. But yeah, I completely agree, because this literally felt like I was watching a documentary on TV, like on the History Channel or something like that, where it's like, you know, real life people dealing with this situation and the stories behind it and the footage they show and the reenactment stuff that they show. Like, this is exactly what in my head what a mockumentary is.
And it feels like a documentary. Like it starts off and, they're talking about the situation, what happened. They're doing interviews with people. They have the brother, and it talks about how he set up video cameras around the house to record what seems to be Alice's ghost. It turns out it was doctored. The reason he did that was so the body would be digged up, because he felt like there was more to the murders than was led to believe. Like, fuck, is it good, right? And of course you find out about her sexual encounter with the man that she used to babysit the kids for.
Yes, and that's fucked
right.
up.
Right. Was it consensual?
I believe it was.
Okay.
But it was one of those like kind of like consensual situations where she just felt horrible afterwards.
Yeah, and like he's old anyway, so I don't think you can.
And it was like a weird threesome with his wife.
Yeah, like it was some kind of weird sexual shit that they did. And then like just the interviewing, how it goes, and she finding the tape and then burying it at the camp and running into that bloated version, the drowned version of herself that she sees.
Yeah.
Like the found footage stuff that you find. Like it feels like you're watching an actual documentary. And the acting so to kind of just present yourself as a character that has experienced this traumatic event, and then you're communicating it to a camera, as in you're reliving and telling a story. It is just so absolutely haunting for someone to have that ability as an actor to make you believe that this is actually happening at this given time.
Yes. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, this legit feels real. Like, even the story they present is very believable of something that could happen. And the way that they did this filming, like with the documentary, like with a documentary we watched with Al Adamson, like how they just kind of like start off with like his life and progress with like his career, and then slowly progress into everything else that was going on behind the scenes, and then to the finale. Like the way they did this just felt like that. Like, the first thing that happened was her disappearance, and then the find out about the like supernatural shit going on that you find out was a hoax. And
what do you think about her finding her doppelganger, walking along the shore and encountering a ghostly like corpus of a doppelganger of herself?
I feel that was a
premonition,
almost like a premonition. But honestly, that was like the only part that almost took me out a little bit of the movie.
Yeah, I felt like it was weird to put that in there. Because I felt like it would start to go down the realm of sci-fi.
Yes.
A little bit. And that's, and maybe someone who's seen the movie more could explain it better to us. But I really preferred when they were just doing the interviews and going back and showing the photos, the doctored photos and the doctored videotapes of what Matthew had done, leading to the search, leading to the, reassuming of Alice's body.
Yeah, but looking at old photos and seeing her image in the background and like things like that, like the ghostly images.
Yeah. Well, that you see at the end when you realize she was in almost every single fucking scene.
Yeah.
Or the image was in every single scene, which just gives you the willies. Like, ooh, it just made a chill go up my spine just thinking about it. Like I agree. I think that was the only part for me that I didn't fully get, but I do love the build up to it and how like the documentary's following them as they're finding this stuff out. It's like the first 48 hours, how like they're finding out shit as it goes. Like it's just so real. And
that's what I was saying. Like that's why it felt like a true documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you had me watch this, I was literally asking myself, is this real?
Like that's how good it is.
Yeah, and that's like how I was saying about Poughkeepscapes too. I'm like, is this real? Did this really happen?
And I just feel like, so when they get to the end and they kind of come to this understanding, they move out of the house and they realize that they've kind of had this closure with Alice. And then you go back through the credits and as the credits go, you realize in all these other scenes, her image or her ghost was there.
Yep.
Like, what a fucking touch to it.
Yeah, and it was
like the razzle dazzle.
And it was so subtly done.
Right?
Like her image wasn't just like right there in the center. It was just a little off in the corner somewhere. Like that they had to zoom into and you could see it, but like you just briefly looked at it, you would have missed it.
And the hiring of the the psychologist or the paranormal psychologist and the digging into it and the discussion of grief, which you could argue that this movie is a lot about discussion of grief and the process of grieving. And
because it goes through the all the 5 stages of grief, like, and like really
denial.
focuses on denial with the mother.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and like thinking that it's not really her daughter and
Yep.
that it has to be somebody else, and then hoping that these sightings are real and all these other things. Like it's for the runtime that it is. I want to just double check the runtime here. It's an 89-minute runtime. It really doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
No.
And I'll never get past the acting of the characters, of the parents, of the brother, of everyone giving the interviews.
No.
And just the realism. Like Blair Witch tried to do it with their interviews, and those are good. Like, don't get me wrong, when they go into the city or the town and they do those interviews, they're pretty good. You get some authenticity from them, but you still know it's a movie. Lake Mungo, you're like, are these fucking actors? Are these people actually living this? And that's the difference.
Yeah, because it almost felt like these actors watched other documentaries similar to what the story was about, and how, because even just the way they talked, they just felt so calm but nervous in front of the camera, and just like
it was real. Like it was real, like watching any fucking documentary.
Yeah, like the only time I was taken out of it was just that doppelganger.
The doppelganger
Everything
scene.
else, I was just like, I could swear this is real. Like I could swear seeing this on TV somewhere.
So do you think the doppelganger scene was put in there because it was an idea of you predicting your death, or the doppelganger replaced her, or do you think there was more to the doppelganger, or do you think it was just an image?
I think it was
prediction, like perhaps she was psychic and she was able to bring her image to life.
Yeah, I think it was just more kind of like a premonition image that like she had like some type of link to the other world somehow. Like it's kind of hard to explain. Like I don't really know what the purpose of bringing that into the story was.
I don't think we'll ever know, and maybe there's someone listening that has a much better idea than we do, and maybe can help for Scott as well, who says it took him out of it. I don't know if it took me out of it. I was just confused. I was just like, did this really happen? Because everything in the documentary up to that point is just so explainable.
Yeah, and even after that, like it's just that one scene for me. Like everything else is just felt real, authentic, like this could have happened. And then that I'm just going, it kind of feels like the movie trope thing to do.
Yeah, you're right. But though they do show the images of the ghosts, and depending what side of the fence you live on, you may not think that's actually a thing that you can see ghosts or whatever. But yeah, I think that this is a prime example of what a good found footage mockumentary is. I feel very confident in saying I haven't seen something that touches it yet. Now, mind you, I haven't seen all mockumentaries, but I put this definitely on a pedestal. If you want to see a good mockumentary, and I think you got to like documentaries too, to be honest with you. Like, I think you kind of have to really enjoy the format of documentaries if you're going to like this movie.
Yeah,
this movie
you really
is worth
do.
the watch.
Yeah, because if I would have watched this when it first came out, I probably would not have been into it. But over the years, I'd started like really digging into documentaries more, and this was like the perfect time for me to sit down and watch this one, and films like Poughkeepsie tapes and things like that, where it just feels real.
And when movies can portray or pull emotion from you, that's the point of film, is to make us connect to something. And I think this movie just goes above and beyond getting us to connect with the family, and even the, as I call it, the razzle dazzle, but the razzle dazzle at the end. Of having that image, and then if you look back in the movie, the images are still there. It's great. It's so fucking well done. So for anyone that's listening, check this out if you haven't had a chance to watch it. But I do advise that you do need to enjoy documentaries.
Yep, absolutely, 100% agree.
Anyway, to get into it,
you really do, because this would be too slow for someone that's not into it. because it's very plotting, but that's because of the way it's filmed.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, 100% this movie needs to be seen, especially if you're a fan of this genre.
Absolutely.
And the next one we will talk about is The Bay from 2012, which is an American found footage horror film directed by Barry Levinson and written by Michael Wallach. It stars Nancy Aluka, Christopher Dunham, Frank Deal, and Kristen Connolly, and premiered at the 2012 Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF.
TIFF.
It was released in theaters on November 2nd, 2012. The residents of a seaside Maryland community become the unfortunate hosts of mutant waterborne parasites that take control of their minds and bodies. So this is definitely one of those films that, once again, I could see happening in a way. This takes some liberties.
Yeah, I think the only thing is it is a little cheesy at parts.
Yeah, it's got the definite horror movie staple to it.
Like it doesn't have the authenticity that Lake Mungo does.
No.
You know it's a movie. You're not like, this is really happening. Because when you have the found footage of the reporter, I believe it's Donna. Is it Donna?
Yes.
Being at the fair events that you see happening on July 4th. You know, it's very much a small town America, or what we think of anyway as small town America. I don't know. Was it small town America, Scott?
Oh, that's very small town.
Okay.
I mean, they were. I forget what the heck holiday they were celebrating.
It was July 4th.
Was it? Okay,
yeah, because
it was just they just were going all out for it with like Uncle Sam parades and shit like that.
Isn't that what happens? Like, I'm not being facetious. I'm actually asking you.
At least not in the areas that I've been to. I've never been to a 4th of July party or parade or anything like that.
Okay.
Like, the most I've ever seen is cookouts and fireworks.
Well, this is in Maryland, so I don't know. Maybe Maryland. That's what everyone goes hard. And it is a water community. There'd be a lot of swimming and fireworks down at the dock. So maybe in that case, it is a full day event because you have the pie eating contest, or is it the hot dog eating contest?
Yeah,
whatever it is that they're doing. So basically, how the movie starts off, like it's the reporter telling the story of what had happened and being concerned about the government knowing, but she wants to show the world what actually occurred and let the truth be known about the events, which is so like X-Filey without being X-Filey, really isn't it? Like, the truth is out there.
Well, and even the plot is very X-Filey.
Right? Yeah, I like the whole like, vomit and collapse while they're eating crab. It's a crab eating contest. That's what it is.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Right? Which makes sense with them being like from the fucking water. And then you have that couple that's coming across the bay with the baby and they don't know what's going on.
But yeah, like this one, like the one like unbelievable part that took me out of it when it comes to like documentary style was how everyone that like it seemed to be like almost everyone got infected at the exact same time. Like, and they all started showing signs at the same time. Like when they're at the carnival, like one lady starts screaming because all of a sudden her skin's starting to boil. And then all of a sudden you see everybody start puking at the freaking crab eating contest. It's like, these are parasites that would have entered your body at one way or another. I don't think it would have been like, okay, all one simultaneously happened. It would have been like,
yeah, and then they're all capturing into different areas. Because you got to remember, there's also that pool scene. We're in the pool. And they start getting sick too. The little girl gets sick and she has shit on her. And where was she getting all this footage from? Did she say at the beginning that this was found footage that she had gathered? Because she has her footage that the cameraman does.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was footage that was submitted for viewing from the doctors and all that stuff.
Okay. So that's what it was. And she was able to get it.
Yep, and able to get it and kind of piece it together.
Okay, so that I found it a little makes sense for a mockumentary. Makes sense that they would be taking apart these pieces of footages, and it's 2012. I can give that, but I don't think, and I'm putting Lake Mungo such on this high like pedestal. But like I think when I look at how smooth Lake Mungo was, I think this one just had a little bit of rivets in it. But I did enjoy the characters in this. I did feel for that family that was coming across the bay, even though they must have been coming from like, I don't know, fucking the Atlantic Ocean to get
Right,
there.
because it took a long time for them to get there.
Took a long time, but you did have this sense of dread.
Yeah,
and
because they're in the
particularly
water
because
where
they had a baby.
yeah, they were on this boat with a baby in the water where these parasites live.
Right. And, Stephanie's mom tries to talk her out of coming, but she's coming anyway. And then you have the two girls that are FaceTiming each other and they're worried about what's happening. And she's worried about what's happening to her. And then they're at the hospital and everybody is sick. And the doctors are calling, I think it's WHO? Is it?
Yep.
Yeah. And
World Health Organization.
And they're kind of like, well, you're kind of fucked.
Right,
Like basically is the message that they get back.
Like that
So
was part. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That was the part I enjoyed though. Like a lot about this film was the doctor communicating with WHO, and like WHO going, okay, what are the symptoms? Okay, I'm seeing this. Okay, blah blah blah. And like you just hear them passing back this scientific medical information back and forth, trying to pinpoint what exactly could be causing this. And I really liked that because that's where it did feel realistic. Like
Absolutely.
There's an epidemic that's happening and no one knows why. And you start piecing together why it's happening with like, the person not like dumping the sewage into the water and all that crap that created these cephalopods to grow larger.
Yes.
Which also this movie made me look into cephalopods and like find YouTube videos, and yeah, these fuckers are real and do exactly this. They lodge themselves inside of fish's throats and will control the fish to get them to where they need to be to survive. And so it's like, yeah, if there's a mutated version that could get inside of a human, like I could see that happening.
Absolutely. And the chaos is realistic, right? Them basically the WHO washing their World Health Organization washing their hands of it, as much as we don't like to think that would happen. We've seen it in Quarantine and Wreck, of just being like, well,
you're fucked.
There goes you guys. And eventually the doctor does get infected and he sends a final broadcast and shows that everyone in the hospital is dead. And he talks about tracing it back. I think he's the one that puts it back together and then he kills himself or dies from infection. And it's interesting. So the kid is killed off. Then you have the whole situation with the police responding to a call, and they go into the house, and all you hear is the radio. Yeah, and what's happening? Of stop, and I believe one of the cops kills himself.
Yep.
Right, that goes into the house.
Yeah, because I think one shoots the other inside the house. And then the one that ends up, because the other one was like doing something, like starting to act crazy, so he shot him. And then like I think it was the sergeant and someone else were pulling up because no one had heard from those cops in a while. And when they pulled up, they seen the one cop that was left just kind of stumble out, shoot the sheriff, and then shoot himself in the head.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, like this one, like the documentary style, it has. I would say this is like the kind of like the perfect blend of movie with realistic documentary.
Yeah, and it even shows like the mayor doing their speech at the beginning and he gets killed or she gets killed later on. And yeah, you're right. I think it kind of flashes back and forth between the newscasters trying to get to the truth of what's happening, some personal stories that are going on of people coming across the water. But yet again, we have situations where I buy the newscaster continuously filming.
Yes.
I don't buy that family coming over there and still fucking filming when they're running through the town.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you are right.
And they're like, oh, we gotta capture this. This is so weird. How could this be happening? But it's like that constant throwaway line that you talked about already. Yeah. It's like this whole, well, we gotta make sure it's on tape. And maybe that is true. Maybe there are people out there that would keep filming, and no matter what, they would keep doing that. I just don't know if it would be in this specific situation. Like, you're going to film the whole way across the fucking water. Like, it's just water.
Right. Like, and you're going to just drain your phone or like camera battery. Like, there's no way to really plug it in, I'm sure, on the boat. And then you get over there and you're just going to film, even though you're seeing dead bodies everywhere. And
yeah. Like the
Yeah.
FaceTime stuff with the little girl, I can buy that. She's FaceTiming
Yeah.
her friend. She's really scared. She's in the hospital. That makes sense.
Yeah, that is like
The
perfectly
doctor
believable.
on the Zoom call or whatever Skype call he's on, that makes sense. You're using all these different forms of video recording, but then it doesn't really say how Donna managed to be the one that got all the footage. Like, how did she go back and get all of this?
Right. They never did explain all that.
Right. So yet again, what I like about this movie is I think that it does a very good job of talking about realistically how a mayor would only care about fucking profits.
Yep.
And then eventually gets his comeuppance and gets killed in a car accident.
Yep. Because he is definitely like the Jaws mayor in this movie.
Right.
Just wants the profit, doesn't care about the environment and what it's doing.
When you see the
Especially around the
researchers,
holiday.
exactly. When you see the researchers out on the boat and you see them collecting the specimen and seeing how it works, I get why they would be re-recording that. That totally makes sense to me. And you're
Yeah, because
flashing,
they need to make a record.
right? They need to make a record. They would want to share that information, and you're flashing through all these different videos, right? So the footage has all come together to basically tell a story of what happened. I don't believe that Donna had the skill set to do all that. That's the only part that loses it for me.
Right.
And that's where it becomes a mockumentary, right? Is that she's created all this information and now it's flowing to tell a story.
Yep, and she even brings up how she was an amateur newscaster, like that was like one of her first days.
Right, which kind of, it's a good movie, very accurate to what would happen if there was an outbreak.
Yep.
Like to a T. I think that there is no argument of that. Is it the best mockumentary out there? I think it's better than Diary of the Dead.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
About 1,000 times better.
I think that there's certain parts of it that really make sense on how it's filmed. I think the presentation is decent enough, but I do think the acting in it is painful at times. And I don't know if it's as smooth as something, and this could be because I'm just going back to like Mungo, but I don't know if it's as smooth as a mockumentary as it could be. It feels like it's just found footage. I don't know why it's falling in this mockumentary documentary.
No, it is literally you're right. It is literally found footage with some documentary style pieces mixed in.
Yes.
But this one also, like I said, it feels more like when you're watching it, you know you're watching a movie. Where you're watching like Mungo or Poughkeepsie tapes, you think you're watching a documentary.
Yeah.
This feels like you're watching a movie, which takes you out of it being believable.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good point. And then we have our next one.
Yep, which takes the mockumentary not even found footage, but mockumentary footage in a more reality TV show style with What We Do in the Shadows, a 2014 New Zealand mockumentary horror comedy written and directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, and the first installment in the What We Do in the Shadows franchise. Well, I guess would be considered a franchise because now there is 2 seasons of it on TV, and they do have a sequel coming out or don't know if it's coming out, but that was planned that was going to be following the werewolves, and it was going to be called, and I love the title because it was going to be called Werewolves. So I just but we'll get into this movie because it's just great. But the film also stars Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi as Jermaine Clement is Vladislav, Taika Waititi is Viago, and along with Jonathan Brew, Ben Francham, Corey Gonzalez McClure, Stu Rutherford, and Jackie Van Beek. The film's plot concerns several vampires who live together in a flat in Wellington. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2014 and was released theatrically on 18th of August 2014 by Madman Entertainment and received critical acclaim. The film earned $6.29 million on a $1.6 million budget. Pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to let you talk about this one first.
All right, well, this is one everybody's got to know about this movie at this point. But What We Do in the Shadows is basically about vampire housemates who try to live with try to cope with living a very mundane life and are having it filmed in a reality TV show style format where they are doing like personal interviews with each of the vampires and like just kind of follow them around when they do their day-to-day chores and whatnot. But my God, This is one of those movies that every time I watch it, I laugh harder and harder and harder just because the comedic timing is like, it's almost kind of dry humor, like British humor. But like,
It's like Monty Python.
yes.
It reminds me so much of Monty Python.
But like the thing that's like, if obviously we got to talk about the mockumentary style. Like this does legit feel like you're watching a reality TV show if vampires were real.
Oh my god. It like how it starts off is filming him as he wakes up. What's the name? Which one is it? Viago?
That's Viago.
Viago. And he sits up for the coffin and then he like I guess stops halfway and has to like adjust to get up. And you see him awkwardly looking at the camera and, and talking about starting his day. Like it totally sets the stage. And at the beginning they say, you know, that the vampires gave these reporters or these recorders safety or like promises of not harming them, and they were equipped with, you know, basically crosses or whatever it was, holy water if needed.
Yep, keep them safe.
To keep them safe. And you know, they're filming them and they're kind of introducing and he's like walking around and kind of introducing him to the other vampires, and he goes to Vladis. Is it
was it everything in Diego in the closet or Vladislav in the room?
Vladislav's in the room with all the women.
Yeah, upside down. Right?
And he like opens it and like he's like, what time is it? Like it's just really, really funny. Or before that, when he goes and he peeks out the window, it's like, this is the scariest part of a vampire. What time is it? All right, it is dark. Like it's just so well done. And I just love who's the 8,000-year-old vampire now?
Oh, Peter.
Is Peter coming to the meeting? Peter is 8,000 years old. Peter will not be coming to the meeting. Oh,
yeah, and I love that how he's just waking him up like, all right, we need to have a house meeting.
I know, and he's very much like they write in Wikipedia that he's a dandy from like 300, and like you know what dandy means, right? So yeah. Like, you know, it's just a really funny way that it's filmed, and like so they're doing the big intro. They go back and forth between showing them at the table talking about the chores, who did the dishes last, and
then going to the interviews with them talking about that, and
then the one interview with, I'm gonna call him Vlad, but when he was like, you know, I used to torture people and stuff. I was in a really dark place and I didn't like myself, and I was like, it's just, and it gets into these like emotional conversations, and they go back to talk about how they became vampires, the story behind them, what they were doing when it happened, like the whole story of Peter biting
Diego.
Like it's so funny, and they're kind of like sitting there awkwardly on the chair having the conversation, and they talk about how they're not able to see each other in the mirror.
Which, speaking of the mirror, though, that is one thing I do got to bring up. Okay, for this being a mockumentary, would they've actually been able to be filmed?
I thought that too.
Like that's the only thing when it comes to this. It's like, I mean, obviously it's a comedy, so it's not going to.
But a mirror would be reflection. A film is like seeing something through a lens.
True.
Right. So I don't know if that would be, you know what, you're not supposed to think that deep about what we do in the shadows.
Right.
But like, it's a valid point that you're making. But I really enjoy the filming going back and forth between these interviews. And it's always about, they're talking about what's happening, right? So if something happens in the home that's of interest, they go back and they talk about it. And like when they bring those people home, and the one guy is a deacon that eventually becomes Nick.
Yeah, it's Nick. Deacon is the one that like is constantly fighting with Nick afterwards.
Right. Deacon's the other one. So then Nick becomes like, they bring Nick and that chick and they give them the like spaghetti bolognese.
Would you like some biscotti?
We're just gonna make jokes and quote this movie the entire time. It's so funny.
I can't help it. Like, I mean, because like you even get like the fun interviews with like the familiar,
Jackie.
Yep, Deacon's familiar, and like how like he's just using her just to be his slave basically, and was never actually intending to turn her into a vampire.
And how it's a documentary, like that scene is filmed so well. They're at a pub or wherever they're supposed to be, and she's doing a list of what he would want, and then she goes, "Are we gonna have that conversation?" He's like, "Be gone," and she's like, "Okay, bye." Like, it's just, they do such a great job of capturing the moment, doing an interview to talk about it, going back to the moment and capturing it, reflecting on it in the interviews. And that's what a good documentary is, actually, right? So if you see actual documentaries and you're following people who live a certain lifestyle, they witness an interaction and then you analyze it.
Yep.
Right. So you have that interview, analyzing conversation with them. And it's just really fucking clever. And parts where Peter is killed, and they're there for that very intimate moment where Peter catches on fire because of the sunlight, because the vampire hunter broke in, and their reactions are very legit, and they demand, like, shut off the camera. You know, we don't want to, like, it's very humbling.
Yeah. Like, very humbling, and like showing the raw emotion and what kind of brings out the infighting, because Nick is the one that accidentally brings the vampire hunter there by going around, like you see him on the documentary, going around
telling
out,
everyone
like,
he's
I'm a vampire.
And the best part is that they're filming him from afar, right? So some of the scenes where he's like at the bar and shooting the shit and telling people he's a vampire, it's all filmed. And that was the really clever thing about the filming here in the mockumentary, is that you had parts where it was the interview, the close-up viewing of the interactions, and almost like the hidden interaction where the camera crew is filming, but the people that are being filmed aren't aware. This is right up there with mockumentaries with Lake Mungo to me. These two are the golden tickets, the golden child, whatever you want to call them. They are the best of the mockumentary films. These two do it incredibly well.
I completely agree with you, because this one does it with a charm. It doesn't do it with try to be realistic. It does it with entertaining you, but sticking to that style of footage. And like,
one thing I will add, though, is it does do it realistically if it was a reality TV show.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
It absolutely follows what a reality TV show would look like with vampires.
Yep.
It absolutely, when you watch that, you're like, fuck yeah, that's what it would look like. And that's what makes it so fucking good, is that that's what you would see.
Yep, because this is like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but with vampires.
Absolutely. Only better.
Yeah,
way better.
Way better. It's that style of filmmaking where, like, they'll bring in a new character, and then all of a sudden that character will get a personal interview. Then you see them interacting and like everything that's happening. Then you'll see the buildup of the drama between certain characters and the fights that'll break out and the emotion that happens.
Absolutely.
Like, it plays out like exactly like a reality TV show, which is why I think it also fit perfectly into becoming a TV series.
And that's where you see the legend of it, right? Like, you see this movie and everyone talks about this. People talk about Lake Mondo too. And people have talked about the Bay. Like, Exploding Heads did a great review of the Bay, but they looked more into the plot and stuff of it. We're talking about it from, a mockumentary standpoint. And when you're going to do a mockumentary, you either need to go the way of Lake Mungo, where it's so good that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, but you could almost not know that it's fake. Blair Witch did that pretty well too when it came out. I think it's just been so recycled, that format, now that you don't buy into it as much. And maybe that's a problem. That's what, Diary of the Dead and The Bay and Cloverfield and other ones are trying to do, is they were trying to recreate that magic that Blair Witch had. And I don't think anyone can create that magic again.
No,
like, we had our cherries popped by the Blair Witch.
Yeah, exactly. Like, once you have your cherry pop, there's just no going back and having that again.
Right. So, but I think where what we do in the shadows and Lake Mondo did things so differently is that they made it more realistic, and they made it relatable, and they made it believable. They made it believable in how it was filmed, the interactions that would occur, for what we do in the shadows, the distance filming is what really got me. Is when they would film conversations with the idea that the characters didn't know they were being filmed. That is so reality TV show, mockumentary, documentary style. Like, you watch anything on fucking History and like the dig for Gold Island or whatever the hell this fucking series is called, where they keep digging for gold or whatever it is. It's the same kind of concept. Or any like those reality car shows or whatever. It's the same fucking concept. And it's just delivered so well here. So
it really is.
The shadows, where it's at.
And I was gonna say, it also, one thing too is those two movies, like Mungo and What We Do in the Shadows, do exactly what we were talking about, where they have their reasoning for filmmaking nonstop, and or for being filmed nonstop, and even to the point where when the cameramen get caught up with the vampires when they end up running into the werewolves in transformation, and one of the cameramen gets killed. Like you see him, like even like he's the one that was like filming for a bit, and then you put the camera down, you could just see like the grass because he was running.
Yeah.
So like even he was being human and panicking, and then you just see him drop the camera and get drug off.
Yeah.
Like so it shows like even in a human, like being human like that, and giving into your panic, you won't continue to film.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're 100% right there, Scott.
And so I could go on and on and on and on about quoting What We Do in the Shadows, like eating why you would prefer to have a virgin woman instead of a one that's had sex, because it's just like eating a sandwich. You'd much rather know that the sandwich wasn't fucked before you ate it.
It's funny. It's a funny movie. The dark bidding on the internet was probably my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Bidding for a table was pretty fucking funny. It's a clever film, but I feel like Lake Mungo and this film and What We Do in the Shadows are in one category. And I actually feel our next two and our final two are in another. I do not put them on par, but I do think that they did the whole I'm a filmmaker making a documentary really well. And I'll let you talk about introducing the first one.
Yes, because this one coming up, I will say it's done so realistically in a lot of ways that, in fact, it was real for about 60% of the film, because it got turned into a real documentary. Some of this footage got used in a real documentary, which I'll get to. But the movie we're talking about is The Houses That October Built, a 2014 American found footage horror film and the directorial debut of Bobby Rowe. It was produced by Zach Andrews and Steven Schneider. Rowe and Andrews both star in the film alongside Brandy Schaefer, Mikey Rowe, and Jeff Larson. The film's plot follows 5 friends who set out on a road trip in search of haunted house attractions, and find themselves targeted by a mysterious and disturbed group called the Blue Skeleton. Filming for The House October Built partially took place at several haunted house attractions, which Rowe would later include in a list of America's scariest haunted houses that he released as marketing material for the film. The film was given a limited theatrical release on October 10th, 2014, and was released to home video on January 6, 2015, which I remember seeing that, the America's scariest haunted houses. So that was actual real footage. That's kind of where I was bringing that up. I thought that was really cool.
I didn't know that. That's where they actually used it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And
so sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so yeah, this is just kind of like following a group of friends, kind of in that along the lines of a lot of found footage style horror, where you're following a group of friends, but they go into the documentary part where they'll start interviewing actors of these haunts and making asking for permission to film inside the haunts and stuff like that, where I felt realistic to me.
I would agree with you. And I think even the setup to this felt more realistic. They have them all getting ready to go. They're talking about doing these haunts, whether they're nervous about it or not. They're traveling in an RV as well.
Yeah.
When they're kind of doing this adventure. And I really think that it's, they find out about the fact that, most establishments don't do background checks. They utilize people that maybe have a blurred reality on whether this is real or not real in some cases, and performing dangerous stunts for this art of the scare. And that goes back and forth throughout the film. So yeah. It's like they have them doing stuff, and then they flash back to these interviews. They go to a bunch of well-known haunts, which you say are, actual haunts that they go to, and they have some creepy shit happen to them. Some people really try to scare them. There's one guy that gets chased in a bunny fucking costume with an axe, and some other shit like that. But I think what is really interesting is not just the Blue Skeleton crew stalking them and showing up at their RV and staring at them and doing all that fucking weird shit, is when they go to the bar and they get confronted for filming in the house without permission.
Oh yeah, because that was at the bar, and like where some of the patrons grab the camera and go and corner Brandy.
Yeah, in the bathroom. And there had been all this issue. And I think what that situation really did was it really captured the concerns when you're making a documentary such as this and the privacy, right?
Yeah.
Like they had places where they went where they were told not to film and they still filmed.
Mhm.
And here they were in the situation with a bunch of locals and people have been drinking and you have people starting to act real tough and trying to intimidate. And I think that to me captures the realism of a mockumentary or a documentary is that there's going to be times when you're doing this kind of, I'm going to say, guerrilla form of filming of a documentary, not the kind of clean and crisp style that we're seeing in What We Do in the Shadows or in Lake Mungo, that you're going to run into people that are going to be fucking pissed and they're going to fucking harass you and they're going to fucking stalk you, which is really what the Blue Skeleton crew was doing, right? Was harassing them and stalking them and making them uncomfortable, which I could buy.
Yeah, and like there's even a scene before the bar where they were at a haunted attraction and they were told not to film, and then they turned the camera on when they're inside.
Well, that's why the people at the bar pursued them, because that was from that attraction.
Okay, because I was gonna say,
they were connected. That's why.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say, because that clown confronted them outside that and was pissed off, like, and trying to fight them.
Yeah, because it was the idea that they're going to a bar near there, right? People are going to know it's going to be the same fucking people, and you're going to have people pissed off that you're filming, right? So it started there, it continued there.
Okay, I thought they were just two separate events.
I'm pretty sure they were connected. I could be wrong, but I got a pretty
I think you're right.
Connection that they were connected, because that's how they knew about the filming and was like, what the fucking deal is with the camera? You know, why are you doing this? And it was a small town. Like, these haunts were in fuck nowhere. They weren't in like New York City. These people are driving through wherever.
Driving on like 1-lane roads and shit.
Exactly. So I do like the build up. I do like how they talk about why they're doing this and the filming of it. I do like and I think what really made it for me different than the Bay is the interviews seemed more legit. When they're interviewing actors and they're like, yeah, they don't do any criminal reference checks. And yeah, like I've done this and that. Like, you actually think they're talking to people from haunted houses, and they could have been. Like, there was footage there where you're like, this could be someone from an actual haunt. And I could believe that they don't do criminal reference checks. I don't think that, and I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen here up in Ontario either. I'm pretty sure these farmyard haunts just hire whoever. Now, do I think you're going to have your average psychopath running around that's going to go and fucking slice and dice people? No, fucking of course not. I think most people get criminal charges for drinking and driving, urinating.
Right.
Like shit like that I'm not, or maybe they robbed somebody when they were fucking 15. Like, that to me isn't something that I'm going to be overly concerned about going through a haunt.
But yeah, I completely agree.
It's a seed of doubt. That's what that does, right?
Yeah, because like this one, like it feels like a believable, like you're saying, guerrilla style documentary filmmaking, because they are taking risks when they're filming.
And it's one camera. It's not like, oh, look at all this footage that I magically got together and put into one film.
Right.
I did these interviews and I've cut it and edited off of the same footage. I've interviewed these people, these actors from these haunts, or these people going to these haunts. And I'm filming my experience with being confronted at the bar, or being, confronted by the Blue Skeleton crew, or going into this haunt, or our experience afterwards talking on the bus. It's all coming from one source, which to me makes it more legit.
Yep.
And makes it more real feeling as a mockumentary.
Yep. And another part that makes it feel real too is the fact that the director is also in front of the camera as one of the characters. Because if you're a director of a documentary, more than likely you are going to be the one in front of the camera.
Absolutely. I think you're 100% right. That's a really good point, Scott.
And so, yeah, I just think like they did a lot in this one that made it feel like it's just a bit different than Lake Mungo and What We Do in the Shadows style. It's more the guerrilla style, which is, something that a lot of the found footage genre does try to do more than the others.
Yes.
But this one, I think, since they did real footage at haunted attractions, makes this more realistic.
And the flash and coming from one media source, coming from one camera source, how it's edited. Like, I can buy that you're editing it yourself, because in the sequel, obviously we find out that they weren't really killed and buried. Like, anyone that would think that at the end of that movie, like, it's obviously a fucking ploy. It's extreme haunted houses. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's not up there on the level of What We Do in the Shadows or Lake Mungo. But if we look at what Diary of the Dead was trying to do and what The Bay, in my opinion, was trying to do, the houses that October built just did it better.
Yep.
They made it more clear. They made it more concise. They made it a path so it flowed into each other. And I recommend watching this if you want to see guerrilla style mockumentary. It's well done. And if you also like haunted houses and haunts and shit, it's even better, because it's a lot of fun around the Halloween season. But that is it being done well and how it should be done.
Yep, 100% agree. Like, this one feels truly authentic.
And we got one more.
All right. So, we always talk, but I'm just going to give it again. We're going to spoil movies. And this one is a 2020 film, so just be warned. But we're talking about M.O.M, Mother of Monsters. It's a 2020 mockumentary about a distraught mother who suspects that her teenage son is plotting a school shooting. But when he slips through the cracks of the system, she is forced to take matters into her own hands. After installing an elaborate spy camera system in their home, Abby captures a series of disturbing videos that confirm her worst fears. Torn between a mother's unconditional love and a mother's acute intuition, Abby caters her videos to all the other mothers of monsters online. Abby's plan backfires when Jacob uses dark family secret against her, launching both mother and son on a terrifying and ultimately deadly game of cat and mouse. So this one I would say feels very uncomfortably real.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one of those, like, when we watched this originally, we were wondering, like, okay, is it the mother that's crazy? Is it the son that's crazy? What is going on? Why is all this happening? Because the mother literally has been filming her son since he was a toddler, and saving these as video files on her computer, documenting every little last thing, like, to the point
looking for problems.
Yeah, she is, like, constantly looking and bringing up, like, things in her head that would be issues, and being so paranoid that you can tell that it is rubbing off on her son. And, like, her son obviously is just 16-year-old asshole.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those asshole kids that he's a problem child. He's going to start fights, get in trouble at school all the time, do some malicious shit. And part of that is due to the way he's been raised. I would say mother nurture versus nature on this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. I think from a mockumentary standpoint, I think actually, first of all, you've done a great job of synopsising what happens in this movie. Like, it's exactly what goes down. This is a little different than the houses that October built. I feel like the houses that October built still had a professional view to it. The person had a goal of creating that mockumentary. What their outcome was clear. I feel for this mother, she's keeping this information very methodically.
Yeah.
Her files are saved very methodically, and it's almost like she's trying to prove a case that a school shooting that hasn't happened yet was premeditated.
Yes.
And justifying the signs that she saw. And it's funny because on the second view, I really saw her in a much different light. I think the filming of this the first time when you watch it favors her side of it.
It does.
It really does. It favors her view, which shows more that when someone's making a documentary or a mockumentary, it is favoring that person's perspective, right?
Because that's why they do this. They want their view to be the one that is seen.
Exactly. As a very, very, I'm not even going to call this a guerrilla. This is a homemade movie mockumentary.
This is an invasion of privacy. Like,
yes.
This is something that, as a viewer, we should not be seeing.
It is basically home movies that we are watching, that is telling us a story through security cameras, camcorders, hidden cameras, and Zoom calls or Psyops calls of this conversation. And what I really appreciate about this film is she records a lot of stuff. She sets up cameras in one room or another, and then eventually she sets up cameras all around the house.
Yep.
So everything is recorded, with the exception of the washroom. So that to me was very clever because it set a stage, and it doesn't show her doing that right away. You see that she's recording when she comes home because she's found some of her property destroyed. She thinks it was her son. I do believe it was her that did it.
Yep, because you find out she has a very bad drinking problem, and you see it throughout the video.
Right, and you believe him on the second round when he accuses her of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it expands from there. Her concern expands of, she shows him getting out of the car and walking towards his friends and how normal he is. So she feels the need, or she sees him walk by a gun store as well when she's following him. So then she puts security cameras up around the house. She starts off with one in one room, but then it expands. Like, to me, there's a gradual build as to why she is adding more and more cameras and documenting this. It makes sense.
Yep,
What
she's
Diary of the Dead
paranoid.
and the Bay did not do for me when it comes to mockumentary is make sense how all that footage, or why they were filming. Like, I got why that one guy, the footage came from, but it was just so cheesy and dumb at times that it just didn't make any sense to me. The Bay was great for what was happening, but it didn't make sense how that footage came together for me.
Right.
This makes sense how the footage comes together. That police are shifting through this laptop, trying to figure out what happened because we could suspect that she has killed herself.
Yep.
Or she's crazy. Not crazy. She's in a situation where her word is not being trusted because of what evidence they have found. And they're trying to piece together what led to these events.
Yep, and she has everything on this computer and just so many different files organized, and like it's just like I was saying, this feels like an invasion of privacy. Like, this is something that us as viewers should not be seeing because this child does not want to be filmed, and you're seeing like his most intimate moments of him like acting out and acting like a monster. You see her in her most intimate moments as well, where that is her downfall in this story, is that, she's trying to play this out like, this is all her son, but her own filmmaking and obsession with capturing everything shows some of the stuff that is causing even some more of these issues herself.
And you don't necessarily feel like her son is completely innocent.
No.
He definitely does things that are, inappropriate and violent, and him freaking out over his PlayStation being taken.
Yep.
I could see with you constantly feeling like you have to caregive for your alcoholic mother, who's obviously mentally unstable, and then she takes away your PlayStation and you fucking lose it because you're 16 years old and you put up with this shit for so long. That must be exhausting.
Yeah.
Right.
But the way he reacts is just kind of like almost everything is taking up to 11 when he like reacts.
Yes. And you question when things escalate, and he finds out that she's been recording him and believes that he is a sociopath, psychopath. He's hurt, and he sets up a recordings of her and tries to get her to admit to things. You find out that she had a brother that was involved in murders and shit like that.
And this, when it comes to the filmmaking, like he makes, he locks her in a room, but he sets up all these cameras around her to like,
yeah.
And then also sets up a camera in his room so where they can communicate to each other.
Yeah. And he tries to get her to admit to things and kind of convinces, like, he has this Nazi fucking gas mask that he buys because she thinks that racism is one of the things of being a sociopath or psychopath. So he's playing it all up. It gets to a point where she self-harms. He freaks out. She kills him. And he says a line that's really interesting. And I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say, if you watch this movie, listen to what he's saying when she's stabbing him. Listen very carefully to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it really, this is a movie that definitely on second time watch, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the ending of that, and then you realize that he was just, pissed, and she finds another video of him being like, it's all over. Like, I was just really mad. I can't believe you would do that. basically that he put on this production, which he's learned from her.
Yeah.
And there could be some mental illness here that's not being treated as well. And sorry, go ahead.
There was even that, like, I'm going to kind of go back a little bit, but there's that, intimate conversation that she ends up having with her old psychologist.
Yes.
Or therapist, she ends up sending him a bunch of the videos of her son, and like he doesn't see anything wrong, and then he even goes to bring up, like, when you and your brother were here, like, you did stuff like this too. And instantly, as soon as she heard that, she like hung up on him. Like, she didn't want to hear that because she didn't want it to be focused on her.
Exactly.
But, and it starts to show like the unraveling of like, okay, who's really telling the truthful story here?
It's exactly what it is here.
Sorry,
and
I don't understand.
I really do feel like this kind of walked the line of what can happen when mental illness is not identified. And, possibly her son could have had some struggles. Some of it, I think I agree with you, was mostly nurture of the environment. But when we look at a mockumentary standpoint, everything is filmed from, her perspective at first, switched over, and the reactions to the camera when people do realize when they're being filmed, when they don't realize that they're being filmed, is so legit.
Yes.
And that's what makes this a very good, home video mockumentary style, because everything moves so smoothly and everything makes sense. And the moving around and clicking on the videos, like, it was a well put together film. And this is, if you want to do a mockumentary, we've talked about a couple of different examples today. Mother of Monsters is one to look at. The Houses That October Built is another one. What We Do in the Shadows, and then finally Lake Mungo, are ones that you want to look at if you're looking at putting together a mockumentary style film. And you want to choose one of those styles and do it well.
Yep, because I was going to say, because each one represents a different style of documentary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And like, this was, this is one of those surprise ones from 2020 that I did not expect, like when we watched it originally. And I've been touting this film over and over again since then. And rewatching it just brings that point up again, that this is something that needs to be seen and has rewatchability for the fact that there's things you pick up on a second watch.
Absolutely. Not all movies are like that either.
No. But yeah, that is the end of our found footage topic of the mockumentaries. We have went through found footage in general, social media found footage, and now the mockumentary. So this has been a fun one, but I figured for our Out of the Dark segment, I would bring up a question for Heather and I to discuss, and that is, what are our thoughts on the found footage genre as a whole? Because when we first started this, we even talked about how we were not the biggest fans of this genre. And I'm just kind of curious to see, like, because we watched a lot of films during this time of this genre. So I'm kind of curious just to see how everything like plays out for both of us. Like, and I'll give Heather a break because she's done a lot of talking right now. So I'll do a little bit myself. But I'll start off and say, I hated found footage. At first, I couldn't stand any film that did it. But honestly, the more I'm watching, the more I love it. I still have my issues. The issues with the whole you need to find an excuse for why you are filming. And a lot of the low budget found footage films, like that found footage 3D movie, the director in that said it perfectly. Oh, we don't need an excuse. The audience is too dumb to really notice that. That is how I feel a lot of like the fast, easy to make found footage films still are. But the ones that are out there that are worth your while are just absolutely incredible and have such an impact. And I'm going to say, like, it has moved up pretty high on my list of one of my favorite genres.
Awesome. I've always been a fan of the social media and found footage. I always liked Unfriended. I've liked, is it Friend Request?
Yep.
I like Friend Request as well. I enjoy the app ones that aren't as much found footage. And I know that Friend Request isn't really found footage either. I just like social media shit. I guess it's where that's coming from. So of course I liked #FollowMe when that came out. And I enjoyed Dead Con as well.
Yeah.
I think what changed for me really throughout this entire discussion was my appreciation for films like The Blair Witch Project. I think if there's any film that I went from not being able to physically finish and disliking so much to really having a lot of respect for the film and liking it more than I had in the past and really understanding its place in found footage history, that to me was the biggest transition throughout this. I never thought I would ever say that about the Blair Witch Project, but I do believe it. Watching Lake Mungo was another film that stays with you. It haunts you long after it is done, and to me, that's powerful. And I also kind of learned about what I didn't like about found footage. I don't like the real cutting together of film that they just, there's no real reason why. I just somehow got this film and cut it all together. The self-righteousness of a director who wanted to keep filming no matter what. That stuff I find dumb. And that's what disengages me. So I think now I've learned how to just pick my found footage better.
Yeah.
Pick the found footage that works for you.
Yep, exactly. Like because you pretty much hit it on the head with the way, like what I don't like. I also, the ones like I really loved this movie before, but now after watching like mockumentaries and talking about the ones that we did, it has fallen from its grace, and that saddens me. But it's Adam Green's Digging Up Tomorrow, because that is a mockumentary. But like I enjoy that. I can still enjoy it as a movie, but I will never be able to enjoy it as a mockumentary style, because what he ended up doing in that was the biggest faux pas of found footage, and that is putting people in a film that are highly recognizable and having them not play themselves. Because he had Ray Wise as this crazy hermit that believed in these monsters, but he was not Ray Wise. He was someone else. But
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Ray Wise, so it just completely takes you out of it. Like before, I never cared, but now that I look at him like and see what real mockumentaries are like, you should have just had someone unfamiliar play that character.
Well, I realized we never talked about the rise of Leslie Vernon as well, which is technically found footage, but it switches halfway. Well,
yeah, it switches over to a regular movie.
So we didn't use that one, but I think if we look up to the third act of that movie, that's another example of a well done mockumentary.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I've never seen Digging Up the Marrow, but I probably have the same issue that you do, right?
Because it's like, that's one thing I've learned about found footage is you need people that are either unrecognizable, or if they are recognizable, have them playing themselves in the situation.
Yeah. And I wonder if Cloverfield now, if that's taken a little bit away from, because you watch the movie, you're like, yay, TJ Miller.
TJ Miller.
At the time that came out, you have to kind of forgive that, right? Like at the time that came out, no one really knew who they were. So, and we actually enjoyed Cloverfield. We thought that was pretty good. So I think when you have something like Cloverfield with TJ Miller, we have to forgive that now watching it, we know who TJ Miller is, right? Like, at the time, we didn't know, right? So but even now, I don't think Cloverfield is that well done of a film comparably to other ones. I don't think it's bad. I think it's enjoyable. But it's definitely taught me more about the found footage, what I like, what I don't like. And, yet again, it's proved to me that Spanish films knock it out of the park like Wreck.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we pushed ourselves outside of our typical knowledge of films and really, really kind of broke it down into these three categories. It really helped. And I'd like to say a very special thank you to Christian Luciani from the Exploding Heads podcast. It was through Christian that we were able to see a lot of these films. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, this has been an interesting journey altogether with this, because like I was saying, I used to avoid these movies like the plague, and finally just forcing myself to sit down. I watched so many, like I didn't even watch, like not even just for our main topic or what we watch segment. There's like probably like 5 or 6 each episode that I just never talked about in our what we watched segment. But I watched at least 10 to 12 different films for each of these little mini subgenres.
Well, and now that increases your knowledge, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the important thing is that you learn how to defend films and you learn how to clarify and discuss what you like because you've exposed yourself to these different subgenres of, a main genre like found footage, much like what we did with the zombie movies, much like what we did with creature features.
Right.
You begin to take a genre and then you begin to break it down, and it allows you to expand your thoughts. So I think that's really important. I'm glad we were able to go on this journey. And we only have 2 more episodes left. this year.
Yes. Oh boy, shall we get into what we're going to be doing?
Sure, because it's my idea and it's a good one. So Scott and I will hopefully have a guest on for our Christmas episode because we're basic bitches and this is what we do. We're going to do a Christmas theme horror episode because all Scott's likes is Christmas. I mean horror, and he doesn't like Christmas, so we have to.
So she's
really
getting
just talk about getting him in the Christmas. It's funny. I'm like totally on the fence. Like I like Christmas. I do. I like Christmas a lot. I wouldn't say I'm like a crazy horror person, like Halloween person, to be honest with you. Like I'm like.
No.
I really like Halloween, but I also really enjoy Christmas. I feel like it is possible to like both.
Yep.
And you can combine both.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
is The Nightmare Before Christmas for a reason.
Exactly. And there is Gremlins and other films that we will be talking about next episode.
Well, you could argue that the original Christmas Carol is kind of fucking freaky.
Yeah.
Like when they get to the third ghost of Christmas fucking future, and it's like the Grim Reaper dude, and he's like, "You're gonna fucking die, Scrooge." Like it's intense.
It really is.
That's
And
scary.
I mean, like ghost stories were always told during Christmas time way back in the day too. So there's always been horror with ghosts.
Or A Wonderful Life, he basically dies. He finds out what would happen if he was never born and his brother drowns and shit. Like, obviously it's not hardcore horror, but like there's some darkness that comes with being grateful at Christmas time. So, Krampus, get your ass in here. We're gonna have some good times. And then for our end of the year show, I did not want to do a top 10. And let me explain as to why I did not want to do a top 10. I think a lot of people do top 10s, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But as a listener, I get tired of hearing the same movies over and over again, because generally speaking, unless you're Vin from the horror, the Watching Around Table, or the Horror Cast, or Mark Nato, most people have all seen the same movies. They are the only people that I have ever listened to that I've been like, oh, what's that film? Don't know what that film is, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's fine. We all like good movies. If a movie's really good, we all want to celebrate it and recognize it. That's fine. I just didn't want Scott and I to have to repeat ourselves on what everyone else is going to say or argue with, argue with other people, but to just go through a top 10 list to me that seemed arbitrary. So
and also we've kind of given our lists away if you listen to our episodes moving on.
We really have actually, yeah. Like we talked about what we like.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, Scott and I watched a lot of movies this year. Scott so far more than me. And I wanted to find a way to kind of acknowledge films that maybe weren't that great, but had really great parts in it. So Scott and I will be doing an awards show instead.
Yes.
And we're going to be coming up with categories. So for example, some of our categories will include best film on Shudder, best film on Prime, but there'll also be things like didn't see that coming, which is best twist, best bloodbath, as well as best protagonist, best antagonist. What else did we come up with?
We had films that were best anthologies, best documentaries.
Oh, and then Punch in the Gut, which is
Punch in the Gut.
The feels. Something that you didn't see coming. I should say the feels, because feels is a different one. Punch in the Gut is something that you didn't see coming. Then we have All the Feelings, which is something that pulls on your feelings and your emotions.
Yeah, but I think we had a relationship one.
A relationship one as well. So basically we've come up with these really creative horror things, and then some other basic stuff, like acknowledging what's been on Prime this year, what has been released on, Into the Darks. We'll be talking about our favorite Into the Dark.
And there is one category that I ended up adding that I felt so proud, because we joked about it earlier on in when we first started this show, about how, it would be nice if Uncorked got some attention once in a while.
You did put Uncorked?
So
Excellent.
we have a best of Uncorked category as well.
Excellent. So we have a variety of categories, some with some clever names to it, some that are very straightforward. So we will be doing an awards show. If I can get my Zoom not having this crazy weird background anymore, we will film it and we will post it for people
And
to
I will
watch.
be naked.
And Scott will be naked. And we will do an actual video. It will probably be one of the few videos that we do because that's not really our jam, but we will do one. And yeah, we're going to do that instead of a top 10. So we will announce the categories on the show, and then we'll probably do something afterwards where you can have a discussion. And it will just be what we have decided that we liked out of this year, going through the different categories that have existed. It gives us a chance to talk about our movies that would be in our top 20 anyway, as well as movies that maybe we wouldn't have brought up, but we're going to have an opportunity to talk about it now. I think one of the other categories was Too Close for Comfort, which was too much like 2020 for our likings. So, whatever that may be. So Scott and I have no idea what each other has chosen yet. I don't know if we're going to keep it for a surprise to the day of. I would like to.
I think we should.
So Scott and I will not know what each other has chosen. We just know the categories, and we can have up to 2 choices for some categories. So for example, we chose not to gender the protagonist. We just said best protagonist. And if we want to say 2 females or 2 males or whatever, we can. Same with antagonist. And of course, if we have a runner up to a topic, if we really think something was really we can't decide between 2, we can give those 2. But we hope this gives you guys something different to listen to during the end of the year show, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of work on my part because I'm so obsessed with lists. So I'm going to be having to work on these lists and just work them over and over and over again. But that's going to be the fun of it. I look forward to doing all this.
I'll decide the day before.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you'll just be like, blah. Isn't that how you usually say it? So
That's exactly what happens. I just kind of vomit shit all over the place and hope for the best. Sounds like a good Saturday night.
You're right.
But anyway, so that's what you can look forward to from us for the end of the year. So we're very excited for both of these kind of themed episodes. And yet again, we want to thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate your support and your kind words, and even downloading our episode. That means a lot to Scott and I. Whether you listen to it or not, at least you download it.
Right, exactly. That's all that matters.
Well, if you're at this point, you must have listened, so
Well, right.
Welcome, my friends. And unless Scotty has anything else to say, I think I'll close this bad boy out.
No, I was going to say thank you everybody for listening and joining us on this journey as we always find new things about how to do this show. And it just gets more and more entertaining for us, and hopefully it continues to be entertaining for all of you guys. But until next time, unpleasant dreams.
Good night.